Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was in the Harry Potter world. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Fan20, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. 1 year after the Kyuubi attack. Hokage's office. Sarutobi was in his office thinking, what am I going to do with Naruto? He has had 100 assassination attempts already, and he's only just a year old. I'm just glad no one found out about his twin sister Haku. No telling what would happen to her if they found out. If this keeps up, I might have to send her out of the village. I really don't want to, but I can't think of what else to do, he continued thinking. His thinking was interrupted by a flash of fire when an old man appeared wearing a robe with twinkling moons and stars on it, with a red and gold bird on his shoulder carrying a small bundle. Albus, how may I help you? Asked Sarutobi. I wish to speak with Kushina Uzumaki, said Dumbledore. I'm afraid that is impossible. She died a little over a year ago after giving birth to her twin children, said Sarutobi. Why do you ask? He asked. This boy's parents were just killed, and I really don't want to put him with his mother's sister, and just found out she had a distant cousin living here, Dumbledore explained. But I guess I will have to leave him there then, after all, he sighed. If you don't want to do it, why are you going to do it? Asked Sarutobi. This boy here survived the killing curse thanks to his mother sacrificing herself for him. I was planning to erect blood wards to protect him from anyone who might want revenge on him for stopping Voldemort. But for the wards to work, he needs to live with someone with his mother's blood, said Dumbledore. This might be what I've been looking for. A way I can protect them and keep them together, thought Sarutobi. I think I have a way I could help Albus, but I ask for a favor in return, said Sarutobi. How could you help? Asked Dumbledore. You said you have a technique that allows you to control people, right? Asked Sarutobi. Yes, the Imperious Curse. But a person with a strong enough will can throw off its effects, said Dumbledore. Well, what I was thinking of is that I could try to permanently seal off the effects on the family you are going to leave him with, said Sarutobi. That is an excellent idea, said Dumbledore. But what do you want in return? He asked. I will be right back, said Sarutobi, leaving the room. He walked into another room and picked up Naruto, and went over to a wall, and released the genjutsu and picked up Haku. They both briefly woke up, looked at each other, smiled, snuggled up to each other, and went back to sleep. Hopefully if this works, I won't have to separate you two ever again, said Sarutobi quietly. He walked back into his office and said, these are the children Kushina gave birth to before she died. While she was in labor, Kyuubi attacked the village, and the only way to defeat it was for the Yondaime to seal it into his son here. He wanted the village to see him as a hero for holding back the demon, but the village just sees him as the demon, not the person holding the demon. He has had 100 assassination attempts at only 1 year old. I had to hide his twin sister so they wouldn't do anything to her as well. I was hoping they could stay with the family you are leaving that boy with, he continued. Yes, that might work. It will give Harry someone to grow up and play with, said Dumbledore. Excellent, I was hoping I wouldn't have to separate them, said Sarutobi. Well then, let's be on our way, said Dumbledore, as they all disappeared in a flash of fire. They reappeared in front of number 4 Privet Drive. They walk up to the door and Dumbledore knocks on the door. Petunia opens the door and screams, it's you, and tries to shut the door. Albus holds the door open and asks, hello Petunia, may we come in? Get away from here, you freaks, yelled Petunia. Dumbledore sighs, pulls out his wand and casts Imperio. Please come in, said Petunia, stepping aside. Thank you, would you please fetch your husband for us, said Dumbledore. Of course, said Petunia, walking away. Dumbledore and Sarutobi went into the living room and sat down and waited for them to return. When they got back, Dumbledore immediately got up and cast Imperio on Vernon. You can go ahead and seal away the effects now, Sarutobi, said Dumbledore. Of course, said Sarutobi as he got up and laid Naruto and Haku down and went over to Petunia and Vernon. He went to Vernon first and performed a couple of hand seals and shouted out Fuin, slamming his palm onto Vernon's head. He then went over to Petunia and did the same thing before going back over and picking up the children and sitting back down. Now this child here is Harry Potter, your sister's son, and the 2 children over there are Naruto and Haku Namikaze, the son and daughter of a distant cousin of yours. They both have lost their parents, and you are going to raise them with the love and care they need. Is that understood? Commanded Dumbledore. Yes, said Petunia and Vernon. Good, we leave them in your care, said Dumbledore as he and Sarutobi handed them the children. They then both left in a flash of fire. 3 years later. Outside the Hokage's office. Hayashi Hyuga came to see the Hokage to ask a favor concerning the attempted kidnapping of his eldest daughter last night. He walked in and Sarutobi looked up from his paperwork and asked Hayashi, "How may I help you?" "I was wondering if I could ask a favor," Hokage-sama asked Hayashi. "About what?" asked Sarutobi. "About where you sent Minato's kids," said Hayashi. "Why would you ask about that?" asked Sarutobi. "I'm wondering if it was safe enough to send Hinata there as well," said Hayashi. "I really don't think that is necessary. I don't think Kuma will try it again," said Sarutobi. "That's not what I want to send her away to protect her from," said Hayashi. "Having problems with the council already?" asked Sarutobi. "They are already calling her weak and unfit to be the heir for getting kidnapped. Honestly, how can anybody expect a 4-year-old child to beat a seasoned jonin?" yelled Hayashi. "Well, I would have to ask my friend first, since Minato's kids are staying as a favor for me helping him out with a problem he had," said Sarutobi. Just after he said that, Fox appeared in a flash of fire. "You always know when you need to show up, don't you, Fox?" said Sarutobi. Sarutobi wrote a quick letter with his request and gave it to Fox, and he left in a flash of fire. "What was that?" Hokage-sama asked Hayashi. "That was a phoenix. That is what my friend uses to communicate with me," said Sarutobi. In a flash of fire, Dumbledore appeared in his office. "What is it you would like to talk to me about?" Sarutobi asked Dumbledore. "This man here would like for his daughter to stay with Naruto, Haku, and Harry," said Sarutobi. "Now why would he want to do that, and why them?" asked Dumbledore. "I stopped an enemy Nin from kidnapping my daughter last night, and the council is blaming her for being too weak for not fighting back even though she is only 4 years old," said Hayashi. "So you want to protect her from any future attempts and from the ridicule of her family," said Dumbledore. Hayashi nodded his head and Dumbledore said, "You still didn't tell me why them. Me and Minato were close friends and had an arranged marriage between my eldest daughter and his eldest son. So since they are arranged to be married, why couldn't they grow up with each other to get to know each other?" said Hayashi. "Yes, I think that is a good idea. If you could go get her, we will be on our way," said Dumbledore. "Thank you, but will I be able to send her some scrolls so she could train while she is there?" asked Hayashi. "Yes, I have already set it up with Sarutobi to send them whatever they need to train with when they turn 6, said Dumbledore. "Thank you," said Hayashi as he left. Hyuga compound. Hayashi found his daughter and commanded Hinata, "Come with me." "Yes, father," said Hinata quietly. He took her into his office and sat her down and said, "Hinata, I am sending you away for a while." Hinata broke down crying and stuttered out, "Are you sending me away because you think I'm weak too?" "Damn that council!" Hayashi yelled in his mind, and he went over and hugged his daughter. Hinata was shocked at what her father was doing and even more so by what she heard next. "I don't think you are weak, but I don't want you growing up having to listen to that all the time. So that is why you are going away to live with the children of a close friend of mine to grow up and train and become stronger. So when you come back, you can show everyone just how strong you really are," said Hayashi. "All right," said Hinata without stuttering, proud that her father believes in her. "What about Hanabi?" she asked, worried about her little sister. "Don't worry, she will be all right," said Hayashi, smiling. "So why don't you go get your things so we can head to the Hokage's office?" he said. "All right," said Hinata, feeling better. Hokage's office. Hayashi and Hinata walked in and Dumbledore stood up and asked, "Is this her?" "Yes," said Hayashi, stepping aside to show his daughter who was hiding behind him. "Well then, let's us be on our way," said Dumbledore as they left in a flash of fire. They reappeared outside of number 4 Privet Drive. "Where are we?" asked Hayashi. "We are outside the Shinobi continent, in a country called England," said Dumbledore. "There are countries beyond our borders," said Hayashi, shocked. "Yes, there is an entire world beyond your borders. But very few people on either side know the others exist," said Dumbledore. "Are you sure my daughter will be safe here?" asked Hayashi. "She will be quite safe. The blood wards I built here will keep everyone safe until the boy I built them for turns 17, said Dumbledore. "All right," said Hayashi. "Here we are," said Dumbledore, knocking on the door. Petunia opened the door and asked Professor Dumbledore, "What are you doing here?" "Hello, Petunia, could you fetch Harry, Naruto, and Haku? There is something we need to discuss," said Dumbledore. "Right away," said Petunia, going up the stairs. Hayashi, Hinata, and Dumbledore go into the living room as 3 kids came running into the room. More like 2 boys ran in and 1 girl came in at a calmer pace. Petunia came in after them asking, "So what did you want to talk about, Professor?" Well, I first came by to see how the children are doing, asked Dumbledore. They are all doing fine. Even now Naruto and Harry are sometimes hard to handle, said Petunia. And the other reason is this man here would like for his daughter to stay here with you. He was very close friends with Naruto's and Haku's father. Due to recent events though, it would be better for her to stay here, said Dumbledore. We would be happy to have her, said Petunia. Why don't you introduce yourself, Hinata, said Hayashi. All right, said Hinata quietly, getting up. She went over to where they were sitting and said, hello, my name is Hinata Hyuga, while bowing. Naruto jumped up and said, I'm Naruto Namikaze. Haku got up and said, hello, I'm Haku Namikaze. Harry got up and said, my name's Harry Potter. Why don't you three show Hinata where she will be staying, said Petunia. Alright, let's go, Hinata, said Naruto, grabbing Hinata's hand. Goodbye, father, said Hinata as Naruto led, or more like dragged her out of the room and up the stairs. We will be on our way. I will be checking in on them from time to time, said Dumbledore as he got up. Of course, said Petunia. Dumbledore nodded his head and him and Hayashi disappeared in a flash of fire. 2 years later. The four kids, Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku, went back upstairs to their room after eating breakfast. When they got inside, they said a familiar-looking phoenix sitting on Harry's bed with a large scroll in its talons and a letter in its beak. I wonder what Professor Dumbledore sent us, asked Harry. Let's see, yelled Naruto, grabbing the letter out of Fox's beak. He ripped open the letter and started to read it aloud so everyone could hear. Dear Harry, Naruto, Haku, and Hinata. As I promised Sarutobi and Hinata's father, I have sent you everything you will need to start your shinobi training. According to what Sarutobi told me, this scroll contains many seals that you can open by swiping your blood across it. The first seal can be opened by any one of the four of you and contains everything you would have learned at the academy. Below that is a series of 3 seals. The ones on the left and middle can only be opened by Naruto and Haku. The one on the right can only be opened by Hinata. The one on the left contains the jutsu that Naruto's and Haku's father created. The one in the middle contains all the scrolls on their mother's bloodline. The one on the right contains scrolls on the Hyuga's Juken. The final 2 seals on the bottom can also be opened by any one of the 4 of you. The one on the left contains all of your shinobi equipment. The one on the right won't open until you learned everything in the first seal. It contains your 4 hatatesh, since we knew that Harry would join you in your training. We both wish you luck with your training. Sincerely, Albus Dumbledore, Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And Sarutobi, Sandaime Hokage of Konoha. Awesome, yelled Naruto. I wish I had a bloodline too so I could learn all the cool stuff you guys are going to, said Harry, sighing. Kit, bring your friends inside, I want to talk to all of you, said Kyubi. Alright, said Naruto. Hey guys, Kyubi wants to talk to us, said Naruto. Alright, said Harry, Haku, and Hinata. Harry and Haku grab onto Naruto's left arm and Hinata onto his right. They all close their eyes and disappear into the seal. They all open their eyes and find themselves in a sewer and walk down the familiar path to Kyubi's cage. Once they get there, they all sit down in front of it and wait as a man wearing an elegant red kimono appears. What did you want to talk to us about, Kyubi asked Naruto. Well, first I am going to insert a little bit of my churka inside each of you so I can talk to each of you to help with your training. This will also create a mental link between the 4 of you so that you can talk to each other in your minds, said Kyubi. Alright, they all said. 3 small tendrils of red churka came out of the cage and entered Harry, Haku, and Hinata. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was that there is a way for Harry to receive Naruto's and Haku's bloodline, said Kyubi. Really, asked Harry. Yes, you could perform a blood bond with Haku, said Kyubi. Why me, asked Haku. It would be safer to do it with you since I don't know how I will affect it if Harry did it with Naruto, said Kyubi. Okay, said Haku. Now leave and I will tell you what to do once you're outside, said Kyubi. They all closed their eyes and when they opened them again they were back in their bedroom. Alright, I want both of you to slit your hands and join them together to allow the blood to mix. Once it starts your hands will start glowing, once it stops let go, and you're done, said Kyubi. Got it, said Harry and Haku. They both cut their hands and joined them together. A light blue glow surrounded Haku's hand and went to Harry's and surrounded it. But nobody noticed that a green glow went from Harry's hand to Haku's. The glow stopped, and they let go and found their hands already healed up. Now that has been taken care of, let's start training, exclaimed Naruto. 5 years later. A scream of Sensatsu Suisho went through the house. Petunia sighed as she finished setting the table for breakfast, and went upstairs. At the top of the stairs she saw Dudley pinned to the wall by Aiz-sama. "Dudley, how many times have I told you to knock before going into the bathroom?" said Petunia. "Now you will have to wait for your cousin to finish before she takes you down," she said, walking back down the stairs. After everyone finished eating breakfast, Dumbledore appeared in a flash of fire. "Professor Dumbledore, what are you doing here?" asked Petunia. "I'm here to take the children to get their school supplies for Hogwarts," said Dumbledore. The kids cheered and got out of their seat real fast and stood next to Dumbledore. He chuckled and said, "Just hold on to me, and we will be on our way." Harry and Haku took hold of his left arm and Naruto, and Hinata his right, and in a flash of fire disappeared. They reappeared in Dumbledore's office, and Hinata asked, "Where are we?" "We are in my office at Hogwarts," said Dumbledore. "Now I can't come with you to get your supplies, but have already set it up for our groundskeeper to show you around and help you get your supplies," he said. "Here are your acceptance letters that include a list of all the supplies you will need for the coming year," he said, handing them 4 envelopes. "How are we going to pay for all this?" asked Harry. "With the money from your trust vault your parents set up for you," said Dumbledore, handing Harry a key. "What's this?" asked Harry, taking the key. "That is what you use to withdraw money with. Hagrid, our groundskeeper, will show you where and how to use it when you get there," said Dumbledore. "What about us?" asked Naruto. "You will withdraw your money from Harry's vault as well," said Dumbledore. "Are you sure Harry has enough money for all 4 of us?" asked Haku. "Yes, quite certain. Harry's family is as rich and powerful as Hinata's family back in your village. So money will not be a problem," said Dumbledore. "So how are we getting there?" asked Harry. "By Floo powder," said Dumbledore. "What's that?" asked Hinata. Dumbledore walks over to the fireplace and picks up a sack of powder and says, "This is." He then takes some of the powder and throws it into the fireplace, and the flames turn emerald green. "Whoa," the kids exclaimed. "Now what you do is take some of this powder and step into the fire, and say your destination very clearly, and throw the powder down," explained Dumbledore. "The place you are going is called Diagon Alley. You will come out in a pub called the Leaky Cauldron. There you will meet Hagrid, our groundskeeper. You will be able to easily recognize him since he is a very big man. He will show you to Diagon Alley and show you around. Once you are all done, go back to the Floo and call out Professor Dumbledore's office," he continued. "Do you all understand?" he asked. They all nod their heads and he asks, "Okay, who wants to go first?" "I do," exclaimed Naruto. Naruto ran up and grabbed some Floo powder and got into the fireplace, and Dumbledore said, "Remember, say your destination very clearly." Naruto nods his head and shouts Diagon Alley, throwing the powder down, and disappeared as a swirl of fire. Harry, Haku, and Hinata each took their turn and disappeared into the Floo as well. In the Leaky Cauldron, 4 kids came flying out of the Floo and landed on their feet. "That was interesting," said Haku. "Yeah, all that training learning the Katon really helped," said Hinata. "Now Professor Dumbledore said to look for a big man," said Harry. "That must be him," said Naruto, pointing at a huge man sitting at the bar. "Wow, when he said big he meant big," said Haku. They walked over to him, and Harry asked, "Are you Hagrid?" The big man turned around and looked at the 4 kids and said, "That would be me." "Harry, is that you? The last time I saw you were just a little baby. You look just like your father, but you got your mother's eyes. And these must be the 3 kids Professor Dumbledore told me about." "Thanks," said Harry. "Hi," said Naruto. "Hello," said Haku. "Pleased to meet you," said Hinata. "Well, we best be off. Lots to buy today," said Hagrid, getting up and leading them to the back. They all go through the back door into a small courtyard when Naruto asked, "What are we doing here?" "Why, this is the entrance to Diagon Alley," said Hagrid, looking for something in his coat. Hinata activates her Byakugan and notices an archway in front of them covered in chakra. "He's right, there is an archway in front of us covered in some sort of genjutsu," said Hinata. "Aha, found it," said Hagrid, taking out a pink umbrella. "Now let's see now, 3 up and 2 across," he mumbled, tapping bricks on the wall. "The genjutsu is gone," gasped Hinata. "Welcome to Diagon Alley," said Hagrid. They all walk through the archway. After they are though, Hinata says the genjutsu reset itself. "That must be the way they keep civilians out," said Haku. "Where are we going first?" Hagrid asked Harry. "Gringotts, the wizard bank. Did Professor Dumbledore give you your key?" asked Hagrid. "Yes," said Harry. "Good, you will need that to get into your vault," said Hagrid. They arrived at Gringotts when Hinata asked what are those, pointing at the creatures standing in front of the building. Those are goblins. They are the ones who run the bank. You would have to be crazy to rob the bank because of them, said Hagrid as they walked in. They walked up to an open teller as Hagrid said Mr. Potter would like to make a withdrawal. Well, does Mr. Potter have his key? Asked the goblin. Right here, said Harry, handing him his key. I also have a letter from Professor Dumbledore concerning you know what in Vault 713, said Hagrid, handing the goblin a letter. The goblin looked over the letter and the key before handing the key back to Harry, saying, very well, Griphook shall take you down. They were led by another goblin to a mine cart that they all crammed into. Since there wasn't enough room, Hinata had to sit on Naruto's lap and Haku on Harry's. Once they were situated, the cart took off down the track like a rocket. After many twists and turns that not even QB could keep track of, they stopped in front of a vault and Griphook got out and said, key please. After Hinata and Haku let go of their death grips on Naruto and Harry, they got out of the cart, and Harry handed Griphook his key. Griphook pushed aside a cover to reveal a keyhole and put the key in and turned it. The vault opened with emerald smoke coming out of it. When it was fully opened, it revealed piles and piles of gold, silver, and bronze coins. This is just my trust vault? Asked Harry, amazed. If this is just the trust vault, I would like to see the main one, said Naruto. He really does have enough money for all of us, said Haku. The gold ones are galleons, silver ones are sickles, and the bronze ones are nuts. 17 sickles to a galleon and 29 nuts to a sickle, explained Hagrid. Harry went inside the vault and found 4 money bags and filled them up equally, and came back out and handed one to Naruto, Haku, and Hinata. Now we need to go to Vault 713, said Hagrid as they all got back in the cart. They went even deeper down until they came to a stop in front of another door. This time only Griphook and Hagrid got out of the cart. Griphook went up the vault door and slid a finger down it, making the door melt away. None of them in the cart could see, so Naruto asked Hinata, activate Byakugan to see if you can see what is in the vault. Alright, said Hinata. Byakugan, she thought. Hinata looked into the vault, and all she saw was a tiny little package. There's nothing in there except for a tiny little package, said Hinata. What could be so special about it to warrant this much security, said Naruto. They both came back to cart with Hagrid saying it would be best if you told no one about this at Hogwarts. Why? Asked Naruto. It's worth more than my job to tell you, so just forget about it, said Hagrid. Back outside the bank, Hagrid said, well, first stop will the trunk shop so it will be easier to carry everything you have to buy today. They arrived at the trunk shop and went inside. An attendant came up to them and said, welcome, how may I help you? We are looking for trunks that have a lot of space, easy to carry, and only we can open, said Harry. Right this way, said the attendant, walking further into the store. The attendant stopped in front of a trunk and said this trunk contains 2 compartments, can shrink and enlarge on command, and can be set so only the owner can open it, and those who they allow. That's perfect, we will take 4, said Harry. After they paid for their trunks, the attendant explained how to use them. To set the security to you, just put a few drops of blood on the brass plate. Once finished, a symbol will appear above the plate that personally suits you. To shrink it, touch the plate and say or think shrink, and to enlarge it, just touch it and say or think enlarge, explained the attendant. Thank you, they all said as they left after shrinking their trunks. They then went around and bought their cauldrons, potion ingredients, and other odds and ends, including their robes, which they didn't like very much, saying you couldn't fight in them. Then they went to Flourish and Blots and bought their school books along with a couple extra, with Harry getting Quidditch though the ages and Haku getting Hogwarts, a history. They finally arrived at the most important place, the wand shop. He is where you get your wand. You go ahead and go in, I have something I need to do, said Hagrid, walking away. The 4 of them walked into the shop and heard a tinkling bell that put them on edge, hands near their kunai holsters. They then heard someone say good afternoon, and instantly pulled out a kunai and turned to face this new person. My, it's been a long time since I had that type of reaction, said Mr. Ollivander. Where did he come from? I didn't even sense him, thought Naruto. What did he mean by that? Did he serve another shinobi before, thought Haku. Ah, Mr. Potter, I was wondering when you would be coming in. It also seems we have a Hyuga with us as well, said Mr. Ollivander. How do you know I'm a Hyuga? Asked Hinata. Most people just think I'm blind, she thought. The shinobi clans used to be part of the magical world before they broke away shortly after the magical world broke away from the Muggle world, explained Mr. Ollivander. But enough about that, let's find your wands. Who wants to go first? He asked. I do, said Naruto excitedly. After trying many wands, he wound up with a 10-inch, Holly and Dragon Heartstring. Haku got a 10.5 inches, U and Unicorn Hair. Hinata got an 11.5 inches, Willow and Unicorn Hair. Harry tried the most wands out of all of them before finally ending up with 11-inch, Holly and Phoenix Tail Feather. Curious, very curious, said Mr. Ollivander after finding Harry's wand. What's curious? Asked Harry. I remember every wand I ever sold, Mr. Potter. I just so happens the phoenix whose tail feather resides in your wand gave just one other feather. I just so happens that you have this wand while its brother gave you that scar, said Mr. Ollivander, pointing to where Harry Hittite was. They left Ollivander's after that, and saw Hagrid carrying a bird cage. What's that? Asked Harry. It's an owl. They are used for carrying mail and everything. Think of it as an early birthday present, said Hagrid, handing the cage to Harry. Thank you, said Harry, taking the cage. How are we going to get it home? I don't think she will like going though, the Fleur asked Haku. Harry opened the cage and said, we live at number 4 Privet Drive, do you think you could fly there? She nodded her head and took off. Well, that solves that problem, said Harry, putting the cage in his trunk. They all head back to the Leaky Cauldron and go though the Fleur back to Professor Dumbledore's office. Welcome back, said Dumbledore, seeing the 4 kids come out of the Fleur. How are we getting home? Asked Naruto. Fox will take you there, said Dumbledore. Fox flew over to them, and they all disappeared in a flash of fire. They reappeared in the Dursleys' living room and instantly went up to their bedroom. When they got there, they saw the snowy white owl was already there. Wow, she really smart to already know where our room is, said Haku. What are you going to call her? Harry asked Hinata. How about Yuki? Asked Harry. Yuki nodded her head, saying she liked that name. That sounds like a beautiful name for her, said Haku. After that they proceeded to take their trunks out and put all the scrolls in the second compartments. Hinata put the Jukin scrolls in hers, Naruto put his father's scrolls in his, Haku put her mother's scrolls in hers, and Harry put the rest of the scrolls in his. They then proceeded to drop their blood onto their trunks. On Harry's was a lightning bolt, on Naruto's was a 9-tailed fox with its tails forming the Uzumaki spiral, on Haku's was a light blue Uzumaki spiral, and on Hinata's there was the Hyuga's crest. Wow, they all said. Hey, that guy didn't tell us how to add other people, said Naruto. Maybe we just add our blood like we did with our own, said Haku. They tried that and found smaller symbols appeared below their own that looked the same as theirs except for Naruto's, whose looked like a fox's head. September 1st. All 4 of them woke up and got dressed and went down to breakfast. After breakfast, Harry asked Uncle Vernon, could you drive us to King Cross Station? All right, said Vernon. They all got into the car and drove off. Once they got there, all 4 of them got, and Uncle Vernon drove away. They walked into the station with Naruto asking, what platform do we need to go to? Platform 9 3/4, said Harry. Do you think it will be hidden? Asked Naruto. Most likely, said Harry. They arrived at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10 and Haku asked, do you think it could be like the entrance to Diagon Alley? Let me take a look, said Hinata, activating her Byakugan. She took a look at the barrier and saw an archway covered in a genjutsu. There is an archway in the barrier covered by a genjutsu, said Hinata, pointing at the barrier. Are we supposed to break it or just go though? It asked Harry. I don't know, said Hinata. Maybe it's like the one in the Leaky Cauldron, said Harry. But then Naruto just heard someone say, packed with muggles, of course. Wait a minute, said Naruto, before anyone could take out their wands. What is it? Asked Harry. I just heard someone use the magical word for civilians, said Naruto. If we hide, we can watch how they do it, he said. The other 3 nodded and jumped up and stuck at the top of a nearby barrier with chakra and watched as Hinata deactivated her Byakugan. They watched as a family of redheads walked up to the barrier and went through it. That's it, shouted Naruto. I guess so, said Haku as they jumped down and went through the barrier. On the other side they saw a scarlet steam engine next to a platform full of people. They quickly got on the train and found an empty compartment near the end of the train and claimed it. Harry took Yuki's cage out of his trunk and woke her up. Are you okay? Asked Harry as he opened up the cage. She bobbed her head up and down and flew out of the cage and landed on the back of one of the seats. They all took a seat and looked out the window at the red-headed family they saw before. Look at how many kids she has, exclaimed Naruto, getting a closer look this time. She definitely must have her hands full, said Haku as she saw the mother try to clean some dirt of the youngest boy's nose. Looks like she has everything under control, said Harry, watching her scold twin boys for something. They then heard the train whistle blow and got settled in for the ride. Hinata was watching the little red-haired girl try to run with the train, waving goodbye. She must be sad that she will be home all alone now, said Hinata, sadly thinking about her little sister. Naruto put his arm around her shoulders as she leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm sure your father explained it to her why you left, and understand that you will be back someday, said Naruto soothingly. Thank you, Naruto, said Hinata as she snuggled closer. The moment was ruined when the door opened and the youngest redhead walked in. Everywhere else is full, so could I sit here? He asked, oblivious to what he just interrupted. Naruto and Hinata broke apart, mad at being interrupted. Sure, said Haku politely. Thanks, said the redhead, putting his trunk up on the railing. Where are your trunks? He asked, seeing the railing empty except for his. Shrunk and in our pockets, said Harry. You know how to do that already, said the redhead, shocked. No, we bought them with that feature, said Harry. Oh, said the redhead, embarrassed. I'm Ron Weasley, by the way, he said, trying to get over his embarrassment. Naruto Namikaze. Hinata Hyuga. Haku Namikaze. Harry Potter. Ron, who had been staring at Hinata since saying her name, eyes widened and faced him, asking, really? Harry sighed, remembering what he was told about being famous for something he barely remembers. Yes, and before you ask, all I remember is a green flash of light and a high, cruel laugh, said Harry, watching as Ron's mouth closed, looking like he was ready to ask that question. Ron, looking for something to break the awkward atmosphere, saw that all four of them had headbands on. Naruto's and Hinata's were around their necks while Harry's and Haku's were on their foreheads. What's with the headbands? Asked Ron. They're Hitayatesh, and they are the symbol of our birth village, said Naruto, irritated. Before Ron could ask what he meant by that, the door opened and a girl with bushy brown hair came in and asked, have any of you seen a toad? A boy named Neville has lost one. They all shook their heads and Hinata asked, what does it look like? I don't know, I'll go check, said the brown-haired girl, leaving. How does she expect to find something she doesn't even know what it looks like, said Naruto. She came back a little while later with a round-faced boy with blonde hair. Hermione said you saw my toad, said Neville. No, I haven't. I just asked what it looked like, said Hinata. It's just a regular toad, said Neville. All right then, said Hinata. Ron, Hermione, and Neville watched as she made a sign with her hands and said Byakugan. All three of them were shocked when they saw the veins on the sides of her eyes budge out. Neville and Hermione took a step back while Ron scooted away from her a little. Hinata looked across the train and saw it in the boys' bathroom in the car before theirs. Your toad is in the boys' bathroom under the sink in the car before this one, said Hinata. Thanks, said Neville as he left quickly. Hermione followed after him to see if she was right and shut the door. What is that? Asked Ron, pointing at Hinata's deactivated Byakugan. My family's bloodline, said Hinata. You're from a foreign pure-blood family? Asked Ron. Yes, said Hinata. We are too, said Naruto and Haku. Why are you here then? Asked Ron. We are distant cousins to Harry and came to live with him after our parents died, said Haku. I and Naruto are in an arranged marriage and I was sent here when I was younger to get to know him better, said Hinata. Okay, said Ron. You're not surprised about it? Asked Naruto. No, some of the old pure-blood families do that as well, said Ron. Why don't you tell us about your family? Asked Harry. All right, said Ron. Well, I have 5 older brothers, he said. 5, said Harry, shocked. There are more of them, exclaimed Naruto. Yeah, my 2 oldest brothers have already graduated, said Ron. What do they do? Asked Haku, interested. Well, my oldest brother Bill is a curse breaker for Gringotts and my second oldest brother Charlie works with dragons in Romania, said Ron. A little while later the door opened up again and a lady with a trolley asked anything off the trolley, dears. Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku all got up and bought some candy off the trolley. They came back with their arms full of candy except for Hinata, who had her arms full of chocolate. They started eating it while Ron looked on sadly as he took out some sandwiches. You can have some if you like, said Harry while eating. Thanks, said Ron, reaching for some chocolate. But he felt his hand go numb as Hinata glared at him, growling, my chocolate. He scooted away from her and took some from Harry's pile instead. What happened to my hand? Asked Ron, trying to move his hand. She just hit one of your pressure points. You will be fine in a while, said Haku. After Hinata finished eating her chocolate and was licking her fingers, Naruto saw something sticking out of one of the packages. He took it out and saw it was a moving picture of somebody. What is this? Asked Naruto, holding up the card. Ron looked at it and said that's a famous witches and wizards card. There is one in every chocolate frog package. What do you do with them? Asked Naruto. You collect them. I got about 500 of them myself, but I am still missing Agrippa and Ptolemy, thou said Ron. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders and threw the card back in. You can look through them if you want, said Hinata as she saw how he was looking at the pile of open packages. Thanks, said Ron as he started looking through the packages. When most of the candy was gone, the door opened again, and a pale-faced boy with blonde hair came in with two big boys acting as bodyguards. Is Harry Potter in here? Asked the blonde-haired boy. Why are you asking? Asked Harry. Because this is the year he should go to Hogwarts, said the blonde-haired boy. Sorry, my name is James Evans, said Harry. Naruto put his hand over Ron's mouth to stop him from saying something as the pale-faced boy looked at Hinata. What is a beautiful girl like you doing with people like this? Why don't you come join us instead? Asked the blonde-haired boy, putting on what he thought was his most handsome smile. Hinata put on her most innocent smile as she got up and saw the boy's smile turn into a smirk as she walked towards him. But then her innocent smile became a smirk as she sent 3 fast palm strikes at the 3 boys, causing them to fall to the ground. She then charged chakra to her foot and kicked all 3 of them out of the compartment, and shut the door, saying, I'm already taken. Naruto took his hand off of Ron's mouth as he screamed, What did you do that for? Are you talking about me or Harry? Asked Naruto. Both of you, yelled Ron. Well, I did it so you wouldn't blow Harry's cover, said Naruto. And I did it because the only reason he wanted to know me is because of my fame, said Harry. Oh, said Ron as he calmed down. A little while later they heard a voice throughout the train. We will be approaching Hogwarts soon. Please get ready to depart. Your luggage will be brought up separately, said the voice. I guess we better change then, said Harry. Could you please leave Ron and change outside? Asked Haku. Sure, said Ron as he grabbed his robes and left. But after he left, he saw the doors shut with only him out there. Where are the other 2? Thought Ron as he went to the bathroom to change. Back inside the compartment, all 4 of them were changing. At least there is one good thing about these robes. I don't have to worry about boys staring at me all the time, said Hinata. I was looking forward to see if wizards were stronger than civilians, pouted Naruto. Well, if those 3 are any indication, then it might depend on family, said Hinata. Ron came back to the door and knocked to see if it was okay to come in. Can I come in? Asked Ron. Sure, said Harry. Ron came in and saw all 4 of them in their robes and asked, Why didn't you 2 come with me, pointing at Harry and Naruto. We lived together almost all our lives. They don't have anything we haven't seen yet, said Naruto plainly. Ron sat down stunned and didn't come out of it until the train came to a stop and they left the train. They all left the train and they heard someone call out, First years. All first years, come over here. They looked towards the voice and saw Hagrid towering over all the students holding a lamp. Hello, Hagrid, said Harry when they reached them. Hello there, Harry. Did you have a nice trip? Asked Hagrid. Yes, they all said. Once all the first years were around them, Hagrid asked, Any more first years? When he saw no one else join them, he said, Follow me. He led all the first years down a steep, narrow path as everyone was slipping and sliding except for Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku as they used chakra to get a firm footing. You are just about to get your first view of Hogwarts after we go around this bend, said Hagrid. They came around the bend and saw a majestic castle on a cliff. Said the first years in all. Hagrid led them to the edge of a large lake and said no more than 4 to a boat. All 4 of them got into a boat with Naruto and Hinata in front and Harry and Haku in the back. Once everyone was in a boat, Hagrid shouted out forward and all the boats started moving across the lake. As the boats came closer to the cliff face, Hagrid yelled duck as they went into a cave opening hidden by a curtain of ivy. The boats went along a dark tunnel until they came to an underground harbor. The boats came ashore and everybody got out. Is everybody here? Asked Hagrid. When he didn't hear an answer, he said, Good, follow me. He led them up a flight of stone steps to a large door that he banged on 3 times. The door opened, revealing a stern-looking woman. The first year's Professor McGonagall, said Hagrid. Thank you, Hagrid, said McGonagall. Follow me, she said to the first years. She led them through a large entrance hall and into a smaller chamber off to the side of the great hall they just passed. Welcome to Hogwarts, said McGonagall. The start of term feast will begin momentarily. But before you take your seats with your fellow students, you must be sorted into your houses. The sorting is a very important ceremony because while you are here, your house will be like your family. You will eat, sleep, study, and go to classes with the fellow members of your house and rest and spend your free time in your house common rooms, McGonagall started explaining. The 4 houses are Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Each house has its own noble history and has produced many fine witches and wizards. While you are here, your triumphs will earn you points and any rule breaking will lose you points. At the end of the year, the house with the most points will win the house cup, she continued. The sorting will begin shortly. I will come for you when we are ready, she finished as she left the room. Once McGonagall left, the bushy-haired girl from before came up to Hinata and asked, "How did you know that?" "Know what?" asked Hinata innocently. "Know where that toad was?" shouted the bushy-haired girl. "I saw it there," said Hinata. "That's impossible," shouted the girl. "Not for me," said Hinata. She activated her Byakugan and looked at the girl and smirked at what she saw. "You still wear underwear with cartoonish books on them," said Hinata, looking at the girl. The girl's eyes widened and her mouth fell open as she ran away while blushing. Haku shook her head while saying, "You're a bad influence on her," looking at Naruto. "I like to think of it as a good influence," said Naruto, putting his arm around Hinata's shoulders. They then all heard a scream which made them all get into their stances and looked around for the cause of it. Hinata was the one who spotted it and pointed up. They all looked up and saw a lot of ghosts that looked like they were arguing. Seeing no danger, they slowly eased out of their stances. "What was that?" asked Ron. "Reflex," said Haku. Before Ron could ask what she meant by that, McGonagall came back into the room saying, "We are ready for you now." She led all of the first years out of the room and into the Great Hall. Everybody looked around and saw 5 tables. There were 4 tables where the students sat, and one at the end of the hall for the teachers. They looked up and saw the hall was lit by thousands of floating candles and that the ceiling looked like the night sky. Professor McGonagall led them up to a 3-legged stool that had an old hat on it. The hat started to twitch as its brim opened up and started to sing. All 4 of them were glad they read that copy of Hogwarts, a history that Haku bought, or they might have attacked it. After the hat finished singing, Professor McGonagall took out a rolled-up piece of parchment and said, "Now when I call your name, you will come up and I will put the sorting hat on your head and you will be sorted into your house." After many of the students were sorted into their houses, including that bushy-haired girl whose name was Hermione Granger was sorted in Gryffindor, Professor McGonagall called out Hinata Hyuga. Mostly everybody was surprised to hear such a foreign name, and paid more attention to see who it was. They saw a girl with long indigo hair step out and walk towards the stool. The most surprising thing to them was that she had pure white eyes with no pupil in them. But the students sitting nearest the first years saw that her eyes had a hint of lavender in them. Hinata walked forward gracefully and with an emotionless look on her face that would have made her clan proud. She noticed everyone was looking at her but knew it was mostly because of her name and Byakugan. She sat down on the stool and let the sorting hat be put on her head. She then heard a voice that she knew didn't belong to any of her friends or QB. Well, this is a surprise. I have never sorted a Hyuga before," said the voice. "Are you the sorting hat?" asked Hinata. "Yes," said the hat. "Okay then," said Hinata as she calmed down a little. "Now let's see where to put you. Can't put you in Hufflepuff since you're a kunoichi, and Slytherin is out too since you wouldn't fit in with your personality. You don't like learning, just was knowledge sake, so it will have to be," said the hat. "Gryffindor," yelled the hat. Hinata took off the hat and put it on the stool and walked over to the Gryffindor table. "The sorting hat talks to you in your mind," said Hinata to her friends. "Thanks," all 3 of them said. After some more students, McGonagall called out Haku Namikaze. Everyone paid attention again when they heard another foreign name and saw a girl with long black hair wearing a headband with a metal plate around her forehead walk towards the stool. The people closest to the first years saw a symbol on the metal plate that looked like a leaf with a swirl on it. Haku walked towards the stool with a kind expression on her face and sat down. She felt the sorting hat being put on her head and heard the voice Hinata warned them about. "Another kunoichi, you would fit into Slytherin better than your teammate. But if I did that, we might not have a Slytherin house by the end of the year. So it better be," said the hat. "Gryffindor," yelled the hat. Haku smirked as she took off the hat and joined Hinata at the Gryffindor table. "What did the hat say to you?" asked Hinata. "It said I would fit into Slytherin better than you. But if I went there, there wouldn't be a Slytherin house at the end of the year," said Haku. Hinata knew that was true, seeing who have gotten into Slytherin and that Haku was the best assassin out of all 4 of them. Next, McGonagall called out Naruto Namikaze. Everybody saw a boy with spiky blonde hair and 3 whisker-like marks on each of his cheeks walk towards the stool. Naruto walked up to the stool and sat down, feeling the sorting hat being put on his head. When the sorting hat was placed on Naruto's head, it felt a sensation it never felt before. It felt like it was being pulled into the boy's mind. When the sensation stopped, the sorting hat saw it had a human form and it was in some sort of sewer. It looked around and saw it was in front of a large cage with a piece of paper holding the doors shut. Suddenly 2 large blood-red eyes with slit pupils opened up. Then a voice growled out, "What are you doing in my kid's mind?" "I'm here to see which house he belongs in," said the Sorting Hat. "Put him with his mates," said the voice. "But that isn't how it works," said the Sorting Hat. But before it could continue, it was interrupted by a loud roar. Red energy came shooting out of the cage and pushed the Sorting Hat out of the boy's mind. Before it left, the Sorting Hat saw a silhouette of a large fox with 9 tails inside the cage. Back in the real world, the hat shouted Gryffindor as quickly as it could and jumped off of Naruto's head and into McGonagall's arms. Everyone was shocked at what the Sorting Hat did, while Dumbledore thought it must have met QB. Naruto walked towards the Gryffindor table as Haku asked accursedly, "What did you do, Naruto?" "I didn't do anything. It was QB," said Naruto. "The kid's right," said QB. "Fine," huffed Haku. After some more students were sorted, McGonagall called out, "Harry Potter." Everyone started talking and looked forward excitedly to catch a glimpse of the famous boy who lived. But they were all shocked, for when he started walking forward, they saw he was wearing the same headband as that foreign girl. Harry smirked at the shocked faces, glad that he decided to wear his hitai to cover his scar. Harry sat down on the stool and felt the Sorting Hat being put on his head. He then heard a voice cry out in his mind, "Not another one." Everyone was shocked again when it looked like the Sorting Hat was crying as it called out Gryffindor. Harry took the hat off and walked towards the Gryffindor table. "What happened?" asked Naruto. "I think QB really scared it. It cried out, 'Not another one,' when it was placed on my head," said Harry. All 4 of them started laughing in their minds as Harry joined them at the table. After the rest of the students were sorted, with Ron Weasley going to Gryffindor, Professor McGonagall put the list away and picked up the Sorting Hat and stool and left with the Sorting Hat looking like it was glad it was over. Professor Dumbledore got to his feet and said, "Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts." "Diggin'," he said as he sat back down. Tons of food appeared on each table as everybody grabbed what they wanted and started eating. Everybody started talking, and someone asked what was on mostly everyone's mind. "Why are you here if you are foreigners?" asked one of the students. "Me and Haku are distant cousins of Harry and lived with him since our parents died," said Naruto. "I'm Naruto's fiancé," said Hinata, pointing at Naruto. All the purebloods and some of the half-bloods nodded their heads and went back to eating, while the Muggleborns and the rest of the half-bloods were shocked someone was engaged so early. Then the ghosts appeared and one of them floated over to their table and said, "Welcome to Gryffindor. I am Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington, the resident ghost of Gryffindor Tower," said Nicholas. "My brothers told me about you. You're nearly headless, Nick," said Ron. "I prefer Sir Nicholas if you don't mind," said Nicholas. "Nearly headless? How can someone be nearly headless?" asked Hermione. Nicholas sighed and said like this and flipped his head onto his shoulder. Mostly all of the first years were disgusted that his head was hanging on by only a few pieces of skin. Hinata had a thoughtful look on her face as she stuck her hand on Nicholas' leg after he put his head back on right. "I appreciate it if you wouldn't do that," said Nicholas as Hinata removed her hand. "Sorry, Sir Nicholas, but I wanted to try something," said Hinata. She then covered her hand in chakra and stuck her hat at Nicholas' leg again and saw that she touched his leg instead of going through it. Everyone who was watching was shocked, including Nicholas. "How did you do that?" asked Nicholas, stuttering a little. "It appears touching you with chakra makes you tangible in the place touched," said Hinata. "What were you trying out?" asked Nicholas. "I was wondering if there was a way to help you out by cutting off the rest of your head," said Hinata. "Really?" asked Nicholas, hopeful. "Yes," said Hinata. "But I don't know any techniques that cut with only chakra," she said. Nicholas looked down at that as Hinata continued, "And the only place I could look for one would be in my birth village, and I don't know when I will go back there." "Well, it was a nice try," said Nicholas, floating away. After everyone had their fill, all the leftover food disappeared and all kinds of desserts appeared in its place. While Harry was eating his dessert, he looked up at the teacher's table and QB felt Harry's scar react to one of the 2 people he was staring at. "Kit, ask who those 2 people are." "Your scar reacted to one of them," said QB. "Right," said Harry. "Excuse me, but who are those 2 professors up there?" asked Harry, pointing to where he was looking. "The one in the turban is Professor Quirrell. He teaches defense against the dark arts. The one next to him is Professor Snape. He teaches potions and is the head of Slytherin," said an older student. "Thank you," said Harry. As Harry finished his dessert, he couldn't help but notice that Snape kept glaring at him for no reason at all. "Why does that guy keep glaring at you?" asked Haku. "I don't know," said Harry. After everyone finished their dessert, all the leftovers disappeared and Dumbledore got to his feet. "Now that we have been fed, I have some start of term notices to give," said Dumbledore. First years should note that the forest on the ground is forbidden to all students. Some of our older students should remember that as well, said Dumbledore, looking at Ron's older twin brothers. That would be the perfect place to train, said Naruto. Since it's forbidden, nobody would bother us, agreed Harry. But there must be a good reason why it's forbidden, said Haku. I'm sure we can handle whatever is in that forest, said Naruto. I have been asked by our caretaker, Mr. Filch, that no magic is to be used in the corridors between classes, said Dumbledore. Quidditch trials will be held during the second week of the term. Anyone who is interested in playing for their house teams should contact Madame Hooch, he continued. And finally, I warn you that this year, the third-floor corridor on the right-hand side is off limits to all who doesn't wish to die a most painful death, he finished. I bet that has something to do with what Hagrid removed from that vault, said Hinata. Yeah, the others agreed. But I wonder what is guarding that corridor that would kill you in that way, said Naruto, thinking out loud. I will check it out this weekend, said Hinata. Now off to bed with all of you, said Dumbledore. Everyone got up and started moving towards the large doors. All of the Gryffindor first years followed another one of Ron's brothers, Percy, who was the Gryffindor prefect. They were almost at the Gryffindor Tower when they saw a bunch of walking sticks floating in the air in front of them. Peeves, said Percy. He's a poltergeist, he said to the first years. Show yourself, he commanded. There was a pop as Peeves appeared. Ickle first eyes, what fun, said Peeves, cackling. He swooped down on the first years, who all ducked but Hinata, who sent a jukin strike at him which sent him flying out of the school. All of the students, especially Percy, was shocked at what Hinata did. She tilted her head to the side cutely, and asked what innocently. Percy shook himself out of his stupor and said, let's continue on. You need to be careful of Peeves if he ever returns, he said, leading them forward again. They finally came to a stop in front of a large portrait of a fat lady wearing a pink silk dress. Password, she asked. Caput Draconis, said Percy. The portrait swung open, revealing a hole for everyone to climb, though. Once everyone was, though, Percy told them the boys' dorm was to the left and the girls' to the right. Once everyone left, Naruto gave Hinata a quick kiss goodnight and hugged his sister before going upstairs to his dorm. Haku quickly hugged Harry goodnight and followed after Hinata up the stairs. In the girls' dormitory, the rest of the first-year girls were jealous of how developed Hinata and Haku were, especially Hinata, when they were changing into their pajamas. While in the boys' dorm, the rest of the first-year boys were wondering how someone could be that ripped at their age. The next morning, Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku got up early and left their dormitories through the window. They ran down the castle walls and to where the lake and forbidden forest was. This will be a perfect place to train, exclaimed Naruto. Yes, it is, said Haku. But what about when the winter comes, asked Hinata. Maybe we could find some place in the castle to train, said Harry. It would have to have some special places, being a magical castle, he said. All four of them started doing their morning training until it was time for breakfast. They ran back to their dormitories and got ready for breakfast. They then went down to the Great Hall to eat. After breakfast was over, they were given their schedules by Professor McGonagall and headed off to class. They found that they liked all of their classes except for two. All four of them found defense against the dark art interesting. But it wasn't the class, which was a joke, it was the professor. Did you notice that his stutter sounded fake, asked Naruto after they left Dada. Yes, said Haku. But it sounded real when someone asked him about his turban, said Hinata. Kyubi said that was the professor my scar is reacting to, said Harry. I will check out what is under his turban in his next class, said Hinata. On Friday they had their first potions class. Haku and Hinata were looking forward to this class after reading their books. That morning during breakfast, Yuki came in with the owls with a letter. Who could be sending me a letter, asked Harry. Both Naruto and Hinata checked it out and didn't find anything off about it. So Harry opened it up and found out it was from Hagrid. It's from Hagrid, said Harry. He is asking if we want to go visit him after class is over, he said. Sure, said Naruto. Harry wrote yes on the back of the letter and gave it back to Yuki, who took off. After breakfast they all went down into the dungeons for potions class. They went in and sat in the back. Haku and Hinata would have liked to sit in the front of the class but decided not to when they remember the way the professor has been glaring at Harry when they were in the Great Hall. Professor Snape walked into the classroom and took roll. Once he was done and gave his little speech about potions, he signaled Harry out and asked, "Tell me, Mr. Potter, what I would get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood." "Draught of living death," said Haku. "Draught of living death," said Harry. Snape sneered as he asked, "Where would you look to find a bezoar?" In the stomach of a goat, said Haku. In the stomach of a goat, said Harry. Snape started growling at this point as he asked what is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane. There is none, they are the same, said Haku. There is none, they are the same, said Harry. 10 points from Gryffindor for showing off, Potter growled Snape. He then stomped up to the front of the class and waved his wand at the board. Get to your work, yelled Snape. Everyone jumped and started working. Hinata activated her Byakugan to make sure nothing happened to the four of them while they worked. What is that guy's problem? Asked Naruto. He first signals you out, then punishes you when you answer the questions right, he said. He was probably expecting Harry to not know the answers to those questions, said Haku. I wouldn't have been able to if it wasn't for Haku, said Harry. Thanks, he said. No problem, said Haku. Near the end of the class, Hinata noticed Neville's cauldron started shaking. Incoming, yelled Hinata. All four of them jumped up as Neville's cauldron melted away, spilling his potion all of him and the floor. Stupid boy, shouted Snape as he banished the potion away. You are supposed to add the porcupine quills after taking the cauldron off the fire, he said. Take him to the hospital wing, he said, pointing at Seamus. Snape looked around and saw Potter was nowhere near Longbottom, so he couldn't blame him. After class they left the castle and went down to Hagrid's hut. Harry knocked on the door and they heard several loud barks. Back, Fawn, back, shouted Hagrid. He opened the door and said hello there. He let them into his house and they saw a large black boarhound charge at them. Naruto released a little of Kyuubi's chakra and Fang stopped in his tracks. He started whimpering before he shot for his bed and started hiding in it. Wonder what scared him? Asked Hagrid. They all sat down and Hagrid asked them about their classes. Harry told him about what happened in Potions class. Snape hates all students that are not in Slytherin, said Hagrid. But he really seems to hate me, said Harry. Nonsense, said Hagrid. Why would he? He asked. He then changed the subject and started talking about something else. He changed the subject, shouted Harry. He knows something but doesn't want to say it, said Haku. Naruto looked around bored and saw something sticking out from under a tea cozy. He picked it up and saw it was a newspaper clipping. When he read the headline, his eyes widened a little and he put it in his pocket. After they left Hagrid's, Naruto took out the newspaper clipping and said, "Look at this. Someone tried to rob the vault that package was in," he said. "I will go take a look at the third-floor corridor tonight," said Hinata. That night, after everyone was asleep, Hinata snuck out of Gryffindor Tower. She went to the third-floor corridor and looked inside with her Byakugan. She let out a gasp at what she saw. "What did you see?" Hinata asked Naruto. "There is a giant three-headed dog standing over a trapdoor," said Hinata. "That must be where they are going to put the item," said Harry. "Can you see anything else?" asked Naruto. "The trapdoor opens to a long shaft," said Hinata. Before she could look any further, she sensed someone was coming and ran back to Gryffindor Tower. The next week during their data class, Hinata activated her Byakugan and looked at Professor Quirrell. She saw there was a large mass of black chakra in the back of his head. "That looks familiar," thought Hinata. She looked over at Naruto and saw a mass of red chakra where Kyuubi was sealed. "So that's what it was," thought Hinata. "What did you see?" asked Naruto. "Something is in the back of Professor Quirrell's head," said Hinata. "He must be using that turban to hide it then," said Haku. "What did the chakra look like?" asked Kyuubi. "It was black," said Hinata. "But why would my scar react to that?" asked Harry. "I don't know," lied Kyuubi. "No reason to tell them what I think it is until I have a way to destroy it," thought Kyuubi. Time passed until a notice went up in the common room about when flying lessons would start. "I've been waiting for this," said Harry. "I hate to be a bummer, but it says we are doing it with the Slytherins," said Naruto. "Oh great, that's an accident waiting to happen," said Haku. At breakfast, an owl dropped something off for Neville. He opened it up and took out a clear ball with wow smoke. "My Remembrall," exclaimed Neville. But it was taken out of his hand by Malfoy, who was walking by. But his hand went numb and the Remembrall fell back into Neville's hand. "What is going on here?" asked McGonagall, coming up behind them. "Nothing," said Malfoy, walking away, trying to feeling back into his hand. That afternoon the Gryffindors went out of the castle and across the lawn to where the Slytherins were standing near some brooms. Madam Hooch came up to them and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Go stand next to a broomstick." Everyone stood next to a broomstick as Madam Hooch said, "Now put your hand over your broomstick and say up." "Up," everyone yelled. The broomsticks near Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku immediately shot into their hands. But it only worked for a few other people. Sometime later everyone was on their broomstick, and Madame Hooch was showing them how to properly mount their brooms. Now on my whistle I want you to lift off from the ground, fly around a little, and then come back down, said Hooch. But Neville got nervous and shot off from the ground. Come back here, Mr. Longbottom, shouted Hooch. But Neville couldn't since he lost control of his broom. Harry shot off the ground and chased after Neville. What are you doing, Mr. Potter, shouted Hooch. Going to save him, said Naruto. Harry was able to get under Neville just as he fell and caught him. Harry then steered his broom towards the ground and landed. He put Neville on the ground as Madame Hooch ran over and said, that was amazing, Mr. Potter. Professor McGonagall will want to hear about this, she said. She led Harry into the castle after telling the other students not to touch the brooms. She led him to McGonagall's office and knocked on the door. McGonagall opened the door and asked, what is it, Rolanda? I have found you a new seeker, Minerva, said Hooch. McGonagall looked and saw Harry Potter standing next to Madame Hooch. You mean Mr. Potter? Asked McGonagall. Yes, said Hooch. He was able to take off from the ground and get under Longbottom to catch him when his broom went out of control. He was then able to get both of them to the ground without any injuries, she explained. Impressive, said McGonagall. I think that deserves 20 points and a spot on our Quidditch team, she said. Thank you, ma'am, said Harry. Come with me, Mr. Potter, said McGonagall. Harry followed Professor McGonagall as she led them down the hallways. What is going on, Harry asked Haku. I was made a member of the Gryffindor Quidditch team as a seeker, said Harry. Really? Asked Haku. Yes, said Harry. That's great, exclaimed Haku. Professor McGonagall stopped at a door and knocked on it. Professor Quirrell answered the door and said yes. Could I see Wood for a moment? Asked McGonagall. Sure, said Quirrell. A few moments later a burly fifth-year boy came out and said, you wanted to see me, Professor McGonagall. Yes, said McGonagall. We have a new seeker, she said. Really? Exclaimed Wood. Yes, said McGonagall. What kind of broom do you have? Asked Wood, looking at Harry. I don't own one yet because of the rules, said Harry. I will deal with that, said McGonagall. Just don't disappoint me, she said. I won't, said Harry. I know you won't. Your father was an excellent Quidditch player, said McGonagall. Haku went to the library and checked out a book on shrinking and enlarging spells before dinner. What did you get, Haku? Asked Naruto at dinner. A book on how to shrink and enlarge stuff, said Haku. I figure Harry could use it to hide his broom better, she said. Thanks, said Harry as he arrived. No problem, said Haku. So what happened? Asked Ron. I was made seeker, said Harry. Ron looked at him with a shocked look on his face. But first years never get on the school team, said Ron. I'm the first in a century, said Harry. But keep it a secret, he said, looking at Ron. Ron nodded his head as Fred and George came over. Well done, said Fred. Wood just told us what happened, said George. We are the beaters on the team, said Fred. We are going to win the Quidditch Cup for sure this year, said George. We haven't won ever since Charlie left, said Fred. Got to go, said George. Bye, said Fred as they left. A week later during breakfast 7 owls flew towards Harry. 6 of them were carrying a long thin package with the 7th holding a letter. Harry opened the letter first and read that the pack contained his new broom, a Nimbus 2000. He quickly shrunk the package and put it away before finishing his breakfast. After breakfast, as they were in the entrance hall, they were stopped by Malfoy and his 2 goons. Hinata shot forward and hit them with 3 quick jukin strikes, knocking them out. They then continued on to their dorms to get their stuff for the day. That night after dinner, Harry went down to the Quidditch field to meet Wood. There Wood explained the rules of the game, and had Harry practice a little by throwing golf balls. Time passed, and it was soon Halloween. In Charms class they were paired off to learn the levitation charm. Naruto was paired with Hinata and Harry was with Haku, while Ron and Hermione were together. This won't end well, thought Harry. All 4 of them got it by the end of the class along with Hermione, while Ron didn't. After they all left the class, they heard Ron insult Hermione, and watched her run off crying. Naruto jabbed his elbow into Ron's stomach, causing him to fall to the ground coughing. What did you do that for? Asked Ron. It's not like you're her friends, he said. We are, said Haku, pointing to herself and Hinata. She was just trying to help you, she said. She was just being a know-it-all, said Ron. Haven't you ever thought why she is like that? Asked Haku. When Ron didn't say anything, Haku continued. That maybe books were the only friends she ever had, she said. Ron just got up off the ground and stormed off. I will deal with him later, said Harry. Where is she? Asked Naruto. In one of the girls' bathrooms crying, said Hinata. Keep an eye on her, said Naruto. By the time dinner came, Hermione was still in the bathroom. She is still in there, said Hinata. We will go get her after dinner, said Haku. Near the end of dinner, Professor Quirrell came running into the great hall yelling, Troll! Troll in the dungeons, he shouted. I thought you ought to know, he said before he fainted. Everyone started screaming as Dumbledore released an explosion from his wand while yelling, Quiet. Everyone quieted down as Dumbledore said, Prefects, lead your houses back to your dormitories. Everyone follow me, said Percy. Keep an eye on him, Hinata, said Naruto. Hinata nodded and activated her Byakugan, keeping an eye on Quirrell. Where is the bathroom that Hermione is in? Asked Harry. This way, said Haku. The four of them snuck away as Haku showed them where Hermione was. Along the way, Hinata saw Quirrell get up and sneak away once the great hall was empty. It was an axe, said Hinata. He must have let that troll in, said Naruto. Do you think he might be after that item? Asked Harry. Maybe, said Haku. As they got close to the bathroom, Naruto exclaimed, What is that smell? Hinata looked and shouted, It's the troll. And it's heading towards the bathroom Hermione is in, she shouted. Damn it, thought Naruto. Harry and Haku, you go get Hermione and bring her back to the common room, said Naruto. They both nodded and disappeared into an ice mirror. I will distract it while you kill it, Hinata, said Naruto. Hinata nodded as Naruto ran forward. An ice mirror appeared behind Hermione as Harry knocked her out and Haku caught her. They then disappeared back into the ice mirror. Naruto ran forward and kicked the troll in the leg. The troll roared and brought its club down on Naruto, which he easily avoided. Hinata charged a lot of chakra into the palm of her hand and jumped onto the troll. She then slammed her palm into the troll's head, destroying its brain. The troll fell to the ground dead as Naruto and Hinata ran away. An ice mirror appeared near the entrance to the Gryffindor common room as Harry and Haku came out of it holding Hermione. Harry quickly said the password and they both shot into the common room. Haku then went upstairs and put Hermione in her bed. We are all safely in the common room, said Harry. That's good, said Naruto. Hinata has killed the troll and we are heading back as well, he said. A few minutes later, Naruto and Hinata shot into the common room and met with Harry and Haku. That went well, said Naruto. The next day, the four of them saw something odd. They saw that Snape was limping. Hinata took a closer look at his injury and saw bite marks around it. It looks like Snape got attacked by that three-headed dog, said Hinata. But what would he be doing there? Asked Harry. I don't know, said Haku. It was soon time for Harry's first Quidditch match. After having breakfast, the whole school went down to the Quidditch pitch. Harry changed into his Quidditch robes and took out his broom and enlarged it. Then both teams left their locker rooms and met on the field, and the game began. A little while into the game, Harry saw the snitch and dived after it. He felt the other seeker behind him and sped up. As he was nearing it, he felt someone coming at him really fast. He pulled up and narrowly dodged being hit by Marcus Flint. Harry looked around but couldn't find the snitch. Damn it, thought Harry. As Harry was flying back up to look for the snitch, his broom gave a sudden lurch. What the, said Harry. He applied chakra to hands and legs as broom tried to throw him off. What's going on? Asked Haku. I don't know, said Harry. Hinata started scanning the audience and saw Quirrell and Snape both using magic. Hang on, Harry, I found the culprits, said Hinata. All right, said Harry. Hinata disappeared in a burst of speed as Hermione asked, Where is Hinata going? To deal with the culprits, said Naruto. Hermione stole Hagrid's binoculars and started looking through the crowd. Hinata arrived behind Quirrell and Snape and delivered 2 quick Jukin strikes to their legs, making them fall over. I got them, said Hinata. You should be fine now, she said. Thanks, said Harry. Once his broom calmed down, Harry looked around and found the snitch before shooting down, catching it. Gryffindor won the game 170-60. After the game was over, Harry and his friends were talking about what happened with Hagrid in his hut. It was Snape, exclaimed Hermione. Nonsense, said Hagrid. Professor Snape would never try to hurt Harry, he said. I know, Snape was cursing Harry. You got to keep eye contact and Snape wasn't blinking, said Hermione. It's the same for counter curses, said Haku. It was Quirrell, said Hinata. But he wasn't doing anything, exclaimed Hermione. Yes, he was, said Hinata. He was just hiding it, she said. How do you know that? Shouted Hermione. Hinata activated her Byakugan and glared at Hermione. Hermione jumped back away from Hinata. I can see the flow of magic in a person's body. So I know when someone is using magic, said Hinata. She then deactivated it and said Quirrell was doing his best to hide it, meaning he was the one cursing Harry while Snape was trying to help him. But why would Snape help Harry? Asked Ron. He hates him, he added. I don't know, said Hinata. Do you think that Snape figured out Quirrell was acting too and tried to stop him? Asked Naruto. That must be the reason he got attacked by that three-headed dog, said Hinata. How did you find out about Fluffy? Asked Hagrid. Fluffy? Asked Harry, confused. He's mine, said Hagrid. I lent him to Dumbledore to guard the said Hagrid before stopping himself. The what? Asked Harry. I can't tell you, said Hagrid. It's top secret, he said. But Quirrell is trying to steal it, said Naruto. He wouldn't do that, said Hagrid. Then why did he just try to kill Harry? Shouted Haku. I don't know why, said Hagrid. But you don't need to concern yourselves with this. What Fluffy is guarding is strictly between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel, said Hagrid. I think that is the best we are going to get, said Naruto. Let's go then, said Harry. Thanks, said Harry. The four of them left Hagrid's hut in a burst of speed. Back in the common room, Naruto asked, do any of you know who Nicholas Flamel is? I think I saw that name in one of the books I read over the summer, said Haku. I will look tonight, she said. That night, after everyone went to bed, Haku made some Kage-bunshin to look through her books before she went to sleep as well. The next morning she dispelled them and looked over the information. I found him, shouted Haku. Where was he? Asked Naruto. In Hogwarts, a history, said Haku. Who is he? Asked Harry. He was an alchemist that worked with Dumbledore and created something called the Philosopher's Stone, said Haku. That must be what the item is, said Hinata. What does it do? Asked Harry. It can extend your life and turn any metal into gold, said Haku. It soon came time for Christmas, and Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku signed up to stay for Christmas. Ron and Hermione have been spending all of their spare time in the library looking for Nicholas Flamel. Neither of them thought to ask them for help. On Christmas Day, Harry got one extra Christmas present. Who is that one from? Asked Harry. I don't know, said Naruto. Hinata checked it out with her Byakugan and said, I don't see anything dangerous. Harry unwrapped it, and a fluid and silvery gray material came out of it. He picked it up and saw it was a cloak. It's a cloak, said Harry. Hinata saw a piece of paper on the floor and picked it up. She looked at it and said, it's a note written in Professor Dumbledore's handwriting. What does it say? Asked Naruto. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time I returned it to you. Use it well, said Hinata. It must have been inside of the cloak and fell out when Harry picked it up, said Haku. Harry put the cloak on and he disappeared. You're gone, shouted Naruto. Harry looked down and couldn't see himself. Hinata activated her Byakugan and still couldn't see Harry. I can't even see you with my Byakugan, said Hinata. Haku reached out and was able to touch Harry. You are still tangible, so it must only make you invisible, said Haku. I will have to test it out to see what its limitations are, said Harry. Where are you going to keep it? Asked Naruto. Harry thought about it as Haku said, maybe we can find out how they made the trunks bigger than they are inside and apply that to one of our pouches. Good idea, said Harry. For the rest of Christmas they looked in the library, and they eventually found the expansion charm. Harry applied it to one of his pouches and put the invisibility cloak inside of it. When Christmas break was over, Hermione came back and asked, did you find anything on Nicholas Flamel? Yes, said Haku. You did, said Hermione excitedly. The day after Hagrid told us about him, said Haku. Why didn't you say anything? Shouted Ron. You didn't ask, said Haku. Both Ron and Hermione just stared at her before Hermione asked, who is he? He is known for creating a Philosopher's Stone, said Haku. When time for Gryffindor's next Quidditch match came, something happened that put the Gryffindor's team on edge. Snape is going to referee, said Wood. Why would he do that? Asked Harry. I don't know, said Wood. That's why we have to play our cleanest and quickest game we can to not give Snape a chance to be unfair to us, he said. It was soon time for the Quidditch match. In the stands, Naruto overheard Hermione tell Ron how to use the leg locker curse on Snape if he does anything. Do they really expect that to work and not get into trouble, thought Naruto. As the match started, someone poked Ron in the back of the head. Hinata looked and saw it was Malfoy. She sighed and sent 3 quick juken strikes at Malfoy, and his 2 guards. You would think they would learn by now, said Naruto looking at them. Harry seen the snitch, shouted Haku. Both Naruto and Hinata turned their attention back to the game, and saw Harry dive down catch the snitch. Gryffindor won the game and took the lead in the points standings. After Easter, the 4 of them were studying in the library when Naruto saw Hagrid. What are you doing here? Hagrid asked Naruto. Nothing, said Hagrid, hiding something behind his back. Hinata took a look with her Byakugan and saw it was a book. She read the title and inwardly gasped. What is it? asked Haku. I will tell you after he leaves, said Hinata. You are still not looking for Nicholas Flamel, are you? asked Hagrid. No, said Harry. We found out about him the day after you told us, said Haku. Hagrid's eyes widened as he said, I got to go. After Hagrid left, Haku asked, what was it? What was what? asked Naruto. Hagrid was hiding a book behind his back. It was about how to care for and hatch dragon eggs, said Hinata. But those are illegal, said Haku. Do you think Quirrell could have used it to get information on how to get past Fluffy? asked Harry. Let's visit him later to find out, said Naruto. When they visited him later on in the day, they saw all of the curtains were closed. When Hagrid let them in, they found it to be very hot in there. What did you want to talk about? asked Hagrid. We were wondering if you knew what else is guarding the item besides Fluffy, asked Harry. I can't tell you because I don't know, said Hagrid. I sure you know, said Hinata. I sure you know a lot of what goes on around here, being the groundskeeper, she said sweetly. I bet no one knows this place better than you, proclaimed Haku. I do know a lot, said Hagrid proudly. We were just wondering who else Dumbledore trusted to guard it besides you, asked Hinata. I guess I could tell you, said Hagrid. Both Haku and Hinata inwardly smirked at that. I gave Dumbledore Fluffy and he had Professor Sprout, Flitwick, McGonagall, Quirrell, and Snape add their own protections. Dumbledore added his own protection to it as well, said Hagrid. Who knows how to get past Fluffy? asked Naruto. Only me and Dumbledore, said Hagrid. Hinata looked at the fire and asked, where did you get that egg? I won it down at the pub, said Hagrid. From who? asked Naruto. Don't know, since he was wearing a cloak with the hood up, said Hagrid. All 4 of their eyes inwardly narrowed at that. How did the guy know you could take care of it? asked Harry. I told him about all of the animals that I have taken care of, especially Fluffy, said Hagrid. Did he seem interested in Fluffy? asked Harry. Of course he was. How many 3-headed dogs do you know about? said Hagrid. I told him the key is to know how to calm him down. Like Fluffy, for example, all you need is to play some music and he will go straight to sleep, he said. All 4 of their eyes widened as they shot out of the hut. I shouldn't have said that, said Hagrid. On the way back to the castle, Harry said, so we need a way to keep an eye of Fluffy and get rid out that egg before it hatches. Me and Hinata will deal with the egg tonight, said Naruto. After everyone went to sleep, Naruto and Hinata hinged into 2ANBU and ran down the castle walls. They arrived at Hagrid's hut and Naruto shot in and grabbed the egg without waking up Hagrid. He brought it back outside and Hinata charged a lot of chakra into her palm. She struck the egg and broke it, killing the dragon inside. Naruto got rid of the remains and they ran back to their rooms to go to bed. To watch over Fluffy, they decided that Naruto would keep an eye on him with his Kage Bunshin since he had the most chakra. Nothing happened to Fluffy until after the exams were over. The night exams were over. Naruto's eyes clouded over a bit as the Kage Bunshin he had watching over Fluffy dispelled itself. It happened, said Naruto. We will go once everyone has gone to sleep, said Harry. Once everyone went to sleep, the 4 of them ran up to their rooms and got geared up for their mission. Keep a lookout, Hinata, said Naruto. Hinata nodded and activated her Byakugan. They were able to get out of the Gryffindor Tower and make it to the 3rd floor corridor without trouble. When they got there, Naruto pointed inside and Hinata nodded. She looked inside and said, there's a harp that playing itself and Fluffy is asleep. Haku, make a Kage Bunshin to keep the harp playing, said Naruto. Haku nodded as they went inside. Haku made a Kage Bunshin to keep the harp playing as Naruto and Harry moved Fluffy's paw off of the trapdoor. Naruto opened the trapdoor and pointed down, and Hinata looked inside the shaft. There is some sort of plant above where you would land. It looks like a devil's snare, said Hinata. The four of them ran down the shaft walls as Haku dispelled her Kage-bunshin once they were all in. They stopped just above the opening where the devil's snare was. Naruto made a whole lot of Kage-bunshins and they used Kaze no Yaiba to cut through the devil's snare. Once the devil's snare was gone, they dropped to floor and went into the next room. They came into a tall room with keys flying above them. It looks like you have to catch the right key to open the door, said Haku. What should I look for? Asked Harry, taking out his broom. Hinata took a closer look at the door and said, an old-fashioned one that will probably have damaged wings. Harry nodded and he shot into the air. He quickly found the key he was looking for and came back down. Here you go, said Harry, holding out the key. Naruto took it as Harry put his broom away. Naruto opened the door and they went into the next room. In the next room they stopped in front of a giant chess set. Wow, that is a big chess set, said Naruto. Harry and Haku both made an ice mirror, and Harry grabbed Naruto while Haku grabbed Hinata. They both went through the ice mirrors and appeared on the other side of the chess set. They then went into the next room. In the next room they were hit by a disgusting smell and saw a troll that was bigger than the one that they killed during Halloween. It's bigger than the one from Halloween, said Naruto. Is it dead? Asked Harry. No, said Hinata. She then went up to the troll's head and sent a Juken strike at its head, killing it. But now it is, she said. They went into the next room and saw a table with 7 differently sized bottles and a scroll next to them. As they went towards the exit, black fire erupted in front of it, while purple fire erupted in front of the entrance. Now what? Asked Naruto. One of those bottles must contain something that will get us through the fire, said Haku. Haku picked up the scroll and started reading it. A few minutes later she said, the smallest one will get you through the black fire, and the one of the right end will get you through the purple fire. Harry picked up the smallest bottle and took a close look at it. If Quirrell has already been though here, then how is the bottle still full? Asked Harry. Maybe the bottle is charmed to refill itself, said Haku, shrugging her shoulders. Harry thought for a moment before saying, I will go first, and you wait, and see if the bottle refills itself. If it does, tell me and come after me. If not, tell me and go back to where the devil's snare was and wait for me there. The other 3 nodded as Harry drank the potion and went through the black flames. Once Harry was through the black fire, he waited for the others to contact him. Eventually he heard Hinata say it refilled itself. I will wait for you all to come through then, said Harry. Once they were all through, they slowly made their way into the next room. Hinata looked inside and said, Professor Quirrell is standing in front of a mirror. Stay here, I will take care of him, said Harry. The others nodded as Harry took out a kunai and silently crept forward. But just as Harry was in arm's reach of Quirrell, a voice yelled out, Look out! Harry charged chakra into his hand and thrust it forward. It hit Quirrell just as he turned around and exploded into dust. Huh, said Harry, confused. The others came up behind him, just staring at the dust pile. A black mist started to rise from the dust pile as Kyubi yelled, Move. All 4 of them jumped back as Kyubi said, I am taking control. Naruto nodded as he was surrounded in red chakra that formed a cloak with fox ears and 1 tail. Kyubi slashed Naruto's hand forward, shooting a chakra claw at the black mist. The chakra claw destroyed the black mist and let out a high-pitched scream. What was that? Asked Hinata, stuttering a little. I think that was Voldemort, said Kyubi. Does that mean he is dead then? Asked Harry. I do not know, said Kyubi. Why did Harry's Juken strike turn Quirrell's body to dust when mine didn't? Asked Hinata. Nobody had an answer to that question. Let's just find the stone and get out of here, said Naruto. Where is it? Asked Harry, looking around. Most likely in the mirror, said Hinata. How do we get it out? Asked Haku. Break it, said Naruto. He punched the mirror, and it shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. I don't see any stone, said Hinata, looking around. I don't think that is how you were supposed to do it, said Haku. Oh well, said Naruto, shrugging his shoulders. Something like that shouldn't be around anyways, he said. They went through the door in the back and came out to where the devil's snare was. We went in a circle, said Harry. They all jumped up and ran up the shaft and stopped just below the trapdoor. Hinata looked up and saw Fluffy was awake. Fluffy is awake, said Hinata. Looks like we will need to use ice mirrors to get out, said Harry. Both Harry and Haku formed ice mirrors and jumped into them along with Naruto and Hinata. They came out near the door to Fluffy's room and ran back to Gryffindor Tower. The next day they were called to Dumbledore's office. They went inside where Harry asked, You wanted to see us? Yes, said Dumbledore. Please have a seat, he said. All 4 of them sat down as Dumbledore asked, You went after the Philosopher's Stone last night. Yes, sir, said Harry. You also have some questions about it, asked Dumbledore. We do, said Haku. Why did you have something like that in the school, she asked. It was a fake I was using in hope of driving Voldemort out to destroy him, said Dumbledore. I did that, said Naruto. Does that mean he is gone for good, asked Harry. I do not think so, said Dumbledore. He will not die that easily, he said. Why did Harry's Juken strike turn Quirrell into dust when mine didn't, asked Hinata. That is because your mother died to protect you, said Dumbledore, looking at Harry. That left a mark inside you, he said. Huh, said Harry, confused. Dumbledore sighed as he said, if Professor Quirrell tried to touch you, the same thing would happen to the area he touched because of Voldemort. Eventually the same thing would have happened, you just caused it to happen all at once with your Juken strike, he said. Oh, said Harry. How were we supposed to get the stone out, asked Haku. I saw what happened to the mirror, said Dumbledore. Sorry about that, said Naruto, embarrassed, scratching the back of his head. That was the mirror of Eris, said Dumbledore. It showed the person standing in front of it their deepest desire, he explained. Only someone who wanted to find the stone but not use it could get it out, he said. How were we supposed to know that, thought Harry. The four of them nodded as they left Dumbledore's office. Later on, Ron and Hermione caught up to them, and Hermione asked, what did Professor Dumbledore want? He wanted to know about the Philosopher's Stone, said Harry. What happened to it, asked Ron. It's destroyed and Voldemort is gone, said Naruto. Both Ron and Hermione started at him in shock. At the end of the year, Gryffindor won the Quidditch Cup and the House Cup. When the summer began, Naruto said, I think it is time we started learning the Rasengan. Are you sure, asked Harry. Yes, said Naruto. It is the easier of the two jutsu our father invented, he said. What do we need to do, asked Hinata. The scroll says we can learn it in 3 steps, said Naruto. The first step teaches rotation, the second step teaches power, and the third step teaches control, he explained. What do we need to do first, asked Harry. We need to burst a water balloon filled with water with just our chakra, said Naruto. All 4 of them started working on it. Hinata was the first one to figure out the trick of spinning your chakra in multiple directions. You did, Hinata, shouted Naruto, seeing Hinata do it. How did you do it, asked Haku. Spin your chakra in multiple directions, said Hinata. The other 3 soon got it after that. What's next, asked Harry. We need to burst a rubber ball the same way we did the water balloon, said Naruto. You would need to increase the power since a rubber ball is thicker, and air is harder to move than water, said Haku. They all started working on it. At first all they got was busting a hole in the ball that let all the air out. Eventually Naruto was the first one to get it, but it blew him back a few feet. Are you alright, Naruto, shouted Hinata, running up to him. What a blast, said Naruto, smiling. Haku kicked him in the leg for that remark. The others soon got it, with Hinata being last. They couldn't continue on with the third step since they had to get ready for the dinner party Mr. Dursley was planning. A rich builder and his wife were coming to dinner, and Vernon hoped to get a big deal by the end of dinner. They got dressed in their kimonos and went downstairs. They stood next to Dudley as Vernon answered the door. Welcome, said Vernon. He led Mr. and Mrs. Mason to the living room, where Petunia said, Welcome to our home. It is a pleasure to meet you, said Harry as the 4 of them bowed. Thank you, said Mr. Mason. I didn't know you had that many children, Mrs. Dursley, said Mrs. Mason. Only Dudley is mine, said Petunia. Harry is my nephew whose parents were killed when he was a year old, she said. Naruto and Haku are distant cousins of ours who were killed after they were born, she continued. And Hinata is staying with us because of some problems where she lived, she finished. How nice of you to take them in and raise them, said Mrs. Mason. The dinner party went off without a hitch, and by the end of it Vernon got the big contract he was hoping for. The 4 of them went back to their room only to stop after they opened the door. They saw a magical creature jumping on Harry's bed. Naruto shot forward and grabbed it by the neck while the others shut the door behind them. Who are you? Growled Naruto. I am Dobby, the house elf. House elf, said Harry, confused. They are servants that are bound to serve one family for life, said Haku. They usually do all the cooking and cleaning, she said. All the old, rich, pure-blood families have them, she said. What is he wearing? Asked Hinata. That is a sign of their servitude, said Haku. The only way to free them is for their master to give them clothes, she said. What are you doing here? Asked Naruto. Dobby has come to warn the great Harry Potter, said Dobby. About what? Asked Harry. He must not return to Hogwarts this year, said Dobby. Why? Asked Harry. He will be in mortal danger, said Dobby. We can handle it, said Harry. No, said Dobby. There is a plot to do terrible things at Hogwarts this year, he said. What plot? Asked Harry. Can't say, Dobby struggled to say. He then started to beat himself on the head. What is he doing? Asked Naruto. House elves cannot betray their masters, said Haku. If there is a plot, then we have to go to protect our friends, said Harry. Friends that don't even write to Harry Potter, said Dobby. How do you know that? Growled Naruto. Hinata activated her Byakugan and looked at Dobby. She walked up to him and pulled out a stack of letters from the pillowcase he was wearing. You have been blocking our mail, growled Naruto. He increased the pressure on Dobby's throat only for him to disappear. Where did he go? Growled Naruto, looking around. Hinata looked over the house with her Byakugan and said, he's gone. Looks like we need to be on our guard this year, said Haku. Hinata, look through the letters and see who sent them, said Harry. Hinata nodded as she quickly looked at each letter with her Byakugan. Haku, write a generic letter explaining what happened, said Harry. Haku nodded and took out some parchment and a quill. She wrote a quick letter explaining what happened and left enough space to put the name later. All the letters are from Ron, Hermione, and Hagrid, said Hinata. Haku copied her letter 3 times and added Ron's, Hermione's, and Hagrid's names at the top. She then put them in envelopes and gave them to Yuki, who took off into the night sky. Let's see what they said Naruto. Hinata divided all the letters up between the 4 of them, and they all started looking through them. Hagrid just says hi, and wants to know how we are doing, said Harry. Hermione basically said the same thing, said Hinata. Ron did too, but he asked if we wanted to come over to visit his family, said Naruto. We will go over once we get our Hogwarts letters, said Harry. A week or 2 later they received their Hogwarts letters. During that time they started working on the 3rd step of the Rasengan. They had to combine the first 2 steps inside an air-filled balloon without popping it. They haven't made any progress on it yet. All 4 of them opened their letters and looked at the book list. Who is this Lockhart person? Asked Naruto. I guess the new data professor is a fan of his, said Haku. They must be a big fan considering most of the book list is made up of his books, said Harry. After they left the house, Naruto asked, how are we going to get to Ottery St. Catchpole? Asked Naruto. With the night bus, said Haku. What's that? Asked Harry. It's a large triple-decker bus, said Haku. I read about it in a book on magical transportation, she said. It can take you wherever you want to go in the British Isles, she continued. The book said it was a bumpy ride, but I'm sure it's nothing we can't handle, she finished. Where do we catch it? Asked Harry. That's the easiest part, said Haku. You just stick out your wand, she said. She did that and a large, purple, triple-decker bus appeared with a bang. Welcome to the night bus, said the conductor. What is your destination? He asked. Ottery St. Catchpole, said Harry. He paid the toll and all 4 of them got on. After they all sat down, the night bus shot forward with a bang, causing them to go flying back. Haku landed on top of Harry while Hinata landed on Naruto. Sorry, Harry, said Haku, blushing, getting off of Harry. It's all right, said Harry. They just got back to their seats when the night bus suddenly stopped, causing them to go flying forward. This time Harry landed on top of Haku while Naruto landed on Hinata. Sorry, Haku, said Harry, blushing, getting off of Haku. Ottery St. Catchpole, called out the conductor. The 4 of them quickly got off the night bus and it disappeared with a bang. Whoever wrote that book made a vast understatement, said Harry. Please tell there is a comfortable form of magical transportation, pleaded Naruto. Unfortunately there isn't, said Haku. The only 2 forms of magical transportation we haven't tried yet is apparition and portkey, she said. Apparition feels like you are being squeezed through a small tube and you could always splint yourself, she said. Splint? Asked Harry. It means you leave a part of your body behind, said Haku. It could be anything from some hair to your whole arm or leg, she said. They all shivered at that. The other is a portkey, said Haku. It can be virtually anything but is usually trash so civilians don't pick them up, she said. When they activate it feels like you have been hooked by your navel and get spun around and around until you crash into the ground when you arrive at your destination, she said. Oh great, said Naruto looking down. Maybe we should learn the Hiraishin as soon as possible, he said. They arrived at the burrow and Harry knocked on the door. Mrs. Weasley opened the door and said yes. Hello, Mrs. Weasley, said Harry. We are here to see Ron, he said. Come in, said Molly. Thank you, said Harry as they went inside. Hinata noticed Mrs. Weasley glaring at her and Haku a little as they walked by. I don't think Mrs. Weasley likes the way me and Haku are dressed, said Hinata. She better not say anything about it, said Naruto. Mrs. Weasley went up to the staircase and yelled Ron. What do you want? Shouted Ron. Your friends are here, shouted Molly. Ron came running down the staircase and shouted Harry. You finally showed up, he said. We told you we would come after we got our Hogwarts letters, said Harry. Oh, said Ron. He forgot, said Harry. Figures, said Haku. We were about to go to Diagon Alley, said Molly. Would you like to come? She asked. That's why we came over, said Harry. They heard a high-pitched sound and saw the red-haired girl from last year at the bottom of the stairs. She looked at Harry blushing madly before running back upstairs. That was my little sister Ginny, said Ron. She's usually not shy, he said. All she kept talking about this summer was meeting Harry, he said. Harry has a fangirl, said Naruto in a sing-song voice. Shut up, shouted Harry. Both Hinata and Haku giggled at that. A little while later they were all standing in front of the fireplace ready to go. Here you go, said Molly, handing cloaks to Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku. Thank you, Mrs. Weasley, but we do not need them, said Harry. But you need to cover up, said Molly. We are fine, thank you, said Haku. You can't go out dressed like that, shouted Molly. We already did, said Naruto in a deadpan tone of voice. There is nothing wrong with what we are wearing, growled Harry. Have you ever traveled by Flo powder before? Asked Arthur, hoping to change the subject. Yes, said Harry. All four of them grabbed a bit of Flo powder and disappeared into the Flo. At the leaky cauldron the four of them waited for the Weasley family to show up. We are not going shopping with them again, said Naruto. The others nodded as the Weasley family started coming out of the Flo. Their first stop was Gringotts to withdraw some money. After they left, Molly said, we will all meet at Flourish and Blotts in an hour to get your textbooks. They all nodded as Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku disappeared in a burst of speed. Wow, said Ginny in awe. I hate it when they do that, said Ron. Harry saw there was a new broom out, the Nimbus 2001, and bought 4 of them. He then gave one to Naruto, Hinata, and Haku. Thanks, said Naruto, taking it. We were thinking about asking Oliver if we could join the team as reserve players, he said. That sounds like a great idea, said Harry. By the time the hour was up, they have gotten the rest of the equipment they needed for the year and headed to Flourish and Blotts. When they got near it, they saw a long line of witches waiting to get into the door. They looked above the door and saw a large banner. It said that Gilderoy Lockhart was signing copies of his autobiography, Magical Me. So we get to meet the person who wrote most of the book list, said Haku. I guess we are getting one of his fangirls as a professor this year, said Naruto. They made their way into Flourish and Blotts and found the Weasleys. There you are, said Molly. We should be able to see Lockhart soon, she said. They saw a man come out with wavy blonde hair wearing blue robes. He then flashed a smile, showing off his pure white teeth. He looks like a poser, said Naruto. Get out of the way, growled the photographer, pushing Ron out of the way. This grabbed Lockhart's attention, and he saw Harry standing off to the side. Harry Potter, exclaimed Lockhart. Damn it, thought Harry. Lockhart pulled Harry up to the front and said, ladies and gentlemen. When young Harry came into Flourish and Blotts today to buy my books, he did not expect to get my complete series free of charge, he said. He was about to say more but couldn't since Harry hit him with the Juken strike. Let go of me, you poser, growled Harry. He then took the free books and put them in Ginny's cauldron. Here you go, Ginny, said Harry. I have more than enough money to buy my own, he said. I bet you enjoyed doing that, Potter, said Draco. Leave him alone, said Ginny. Got yourself a girlfriend, Potter, asked Draco. Ginny blushed at that. Jealous, Malfoy, asked Harry, smirking as Haku came up beside him. That I can attract young, beautiful girls while all you can attract are trollish boys, he said, smirking. Ginny blushed even harder at hearing Harry calling her beautiful. Draco growled at that and was about to attack Harry only to be held back by his father. Now, Draco, said Lucius. Harry Potter, what an honor to meet you, he said. It is a pleasure to meet you as well, Mr. Malfoy, said Harry. We really must be going, he said as Naruto and Hinata came up beside him. We bid you a fond farewell, he said. The four of them bowed before disappearing in swirls of leaves. The next day the Daily Prophet came and Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku took a look at it. There was an article about Lockhart's book signing and saw there was a fight between Mr. Weasley and Mr. Malfoy after they left. Ah, we missed the fight, whined Naruto. Something isn't right here, said Hinata. Malfoy doesn't seem to be the type of person to get into fights like that, she said. You're right, said Haku. It must have been a distraction or to cover up something, she said. But what? Asked Harry. Over the next few days Haku looked over the set of Lockhart books that they bought. Eventually she threw them all against the wall and made them into pincushions. These books are complete and utter crap, shouted Haku. The only thing they are good for is target practice, she said. What is the matter with them? Asked Harry. There is no way that guy could have done all that even with magic, said Haku. So he's a faker then? Asked Naruto. Yes, said Haku. By the time they were to go to Hogwarts, all four of them had made progress on the Rasengan. But none of them have been able to complete it yet. Uncle Vernon took them to King's Cross Station and all four of them went towards the barrier. Naruto went to go first only to run into a brick wall. Ow, shouted Naruto, rubbing his nose. What happened? He asked. Hinata activated her Byakugan and looked at the barrier. The barrier is closed, said Hinata. But the train doesn't leave for a long while yet, said Haku. I bet it's that house elf, said Harry. This must be his way of stopping us from getting to Hogwarts, he said. They left the barrier and went back outside the station where they henged into random-looking people before going back inside. This time they were able to get through the barrier. They released their henge and got on the train. Just as the train was about to leave, they saw the Weasley family come running through the barrier and the children ran onto the train. Ron and Hermione came into their compartment where Ron asked what was with that leaf thing. It is what we usually do, but with a little extra flair, said Harry. The train arrived as night fell and all four of them were led to horseless carriages that would take them to Hogwarts. Hinata activated her Byakugan and saw that something was pulling the carriages, but she still couldn't see what they were. What's the matter, Hinata? Asked Naruto. Something is pulling the carriages, but I can't see what, said Hinata. When they went into the Great Hall, all four of them froze when they saw Gilderoy Lockhart at the teacher's table. He's our new teacher, shouted Haku. So that's why we had to buy all his books, said Harry. So now he's a greedy, posing faker, said Naruto. The next day classes started where they repotted mandrakes in herbology and had a review in transfiguration. After lunch they went to the class they have been dreading, defense against the dark arts. When they all sat down, Hermione didn't see their books anywhere. Where are your books? Asked Hermione. We used them for target practice, said Haku. How could you do that? Exclaimed Hermione. Easy, said Harry, smirking. Lockhart came into the room and gave a speech bragging about everything he had supposedly had done. Now I thought we start with a little quiz to see how well you have read my books, said Lockhart. He passed the quiz out to everyone and said you have a half hour to complete it. Begin, he said. Everyone turned their paper over and Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku inwardly groaned when they saw the questions. They are all about him, shouted Haku. I think it's time for a prank, said Naruto. Great idea, said Harry. All four of them started writing down what they really thought of Lockhart to each of the questions. A half hour later Lockhart collected all the papers from the students, and he started looking over them. He went pale and started sweating when he read Naruto's, Hinata's, Harry's, and Haku's papers. All four of them inwardly smirked as Lockhart quickly went past them. It appears most of you need to read my books again, said Lockhart, stuttering a little. But one of you got full marks, he said. Where is Ms. Hermione Granger? He asked. Harry and Haku sighed at that as Hermione shakily raised her hand. Take 10 points for Gryffindor, Ms. Granger, said Lockhart, smiling. He then took out a large covered cage and put it on his desk. It is my job to prepare you for the worst our world has to offer, said Lockhart. I have a bad feeling about this, thought Harry. I ask that you remain calm since no harm can befall you while I am here, said Lockhart. Naruto, Harry, and Haku inwardly laughed at that. I asked you not to scream, Lockhart began. For it might provoke them, he shouted, pulling off the cover. Harry and Haku started doing one-handed hang signs under their desks as it was revealed that the cage was full of Cornish pixies. Cornish pixies, said Seamus, laughing. Freshly caught Cornish pixies, said Lockhart. They are not that dangerous, said Seamus. Let's see what you make of them now, said Lockhart, opening the cage. All the Cornish pixies started flying out of the cage when Harry and Haku shouted Sensatsu Sway Show. 2,000 ice needles formed in the air above them and shot at the Cornish pixies and Lockhart. Lockhart tried to jump behind his desk but wasn't quick enough. His entire back was full of needles as he collapsed behind his desk while the Cornish pixies were skewered. When it was over, it looked like a horror show. All the Cornish pixies were full of needles and were stuck to the desk and the wall behind it. Class dismissed, said Lockhart weakly before he fell unconscious. Everyone quickly got up and ran out of the classroom. Once outside, Hermione shouted, "Why did you do that?" Because he is a greedy, posing faker, said Naruto. He is not, exclaimed Hermione. I'm sure Professor Lockhart had everything under control, she said. Oh really, said Haku. Have you even read his books, she asked. Of course I have, said Hermione. Then you are not as smart as I thought you were, said Harry. What is that supposed to mean? Shouted Hermione. When Oliver Wood came around to tell Harry when practice was, Harry asked, are we allowed to have reserve players? Yes, said Wood. Great, exclaimed Harry. My friends want to try for that, he said. All right, said Wood. Just have them come with you to practice, he said. When it was time for practice, Naruto, Hinata, and Haku joined Harry and went to the Quidditch pitch with their new Nimbus 2001s. They met the rest of the team outside the pitch where Wood asked, what positions do you play? Keeper, said Naruto. Seeker, said Hinata. Chaser, said Haku. All right, said Wood. Let's go see how well you play, he said. They were about to enter the pitch when they saw the Slytherin team coming towards them. We got incoming, said Hinata. I don't believe this, said Wood. I had the pitch booked for us today, he added. The Gryffindor team approached the Slytherin team and Wood asked, what are you doing here? This is our practice time, he added. I got a note, said Flint, holding it. Oliver took the note and read it out loud. I, Professor Severus Snape, give permission for the Slytherin team to use the Quidditch pitch to train their new Seeker. Read Wood. You have a new Seeker, he asked. Draco came to the front of the Slytherin team smirking. That's not all, said Flint, smirking. The entire Slytherin team held out their new Nimbus 2001s. They are a gift from my father, said Draco, smirking. I hope you don't expect those to help you, said Harry. Since I have the same broom, he added, smirking. Draco growled as Ron and Hermione came overseeing the commotion. What is going on? Asked Ron. Malfoy bought his way onto the team, said Harry. Well, at least everyone on the Gryffindor team got on it with talent, said Hermione. Nobody asked you, you filthy little mudblood, sneered Draco. The Gryffindors started growling as Hinata thrust her palm forward, shouting Hack Kusho. The entire Slytherin team was blown back as Haku took out a small fan and swung it, shouting Kamaitachi no Jutsu. The Slytherin team was assaulted by multiple blades of wind, receiving multiple cuts and destroying their brooms. Wow, said Wood in awe. I would like to add you to the team just for that, he said. The Gryffindor team entered the pitch and Naruto, Hinata, and Haku tried out. At the end of practice, Naruto, Hinata, and Haku were made reserve players on the Gryffindor Quidditch team. The next day, Hinata and Haku were called into Professor Dumbledore's office. It must be Lucius Malfoy who wants to complain about the brooms we destroyed, said Hinata. Do you want us to go with you? Asked Naruto. No, said Haku. We can handle it, she said. Hinata and Haku walked into Professor Dumbledore's office and saw Dumbledore sitting behind his desk and Lucius Malfoy standing next to it. You wanted to see us, Professor Dumbledore? Asked Hinata. I demand compensation for the brooms that you destroyed, said Lucius, glaring at them. How is it our fault that the Slytherin Quidditch team wasn't careful with their brooms? Asked Hinata. We always keep our brooms shrunken in our pockets when we are not using them, said Haku. Besides, you have no right to demand compensation, said Hinata. Why is that? Asked Lucius. Draco Malfoy said that the brooms were donated to the Slytherin Quidditch team, said Hinata. Meaning only the school has the right to demand compensation, she said. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to give kids top-of-the-line brooms after all, said Haku. Lucius Malfoy just glared at them before he left Dumbledore's office. Is that all? Asked Hinata. Yes, said Dumbledore, nodding his head. You may leave, he said. Hinata and Haku bowed before they left Dumbledore's office. It's all taken care of, said Hinata. Are you all right? Asked Naruto. We're fine, said Hinata, smiling. What happened? Asked Harry. So Hinata and Haku explained what happened with Lucius Malfoy. Good job, said Naruto. Thank you, said Hinata. It was in October as the four of them were on their way back to the Gryffindor common room when Harry and Haku froze before they started looking around. What's the matter? Asked Naruto. Did you just hear a hissing voice right about now? Asked Harry. It sounded like it was hunting something, said Haku. I didn't hear anything, said Naruto. Let me check, said Hinata. Don't, yelled Kurama. Hinata held her head in pain after Kurama yelled. Are you alright? Asked Naruto, worried. I'm fine, said Hinata. Kurama just yelled not to use my Byakugan, she said. Why not? She asked. Because I have a bad feeling about this, said Kurama. How was it that Harry and Haku heard a voice that Naruto couldn't with his enhanced senses? He said. You're right, said Naruto. I guess I need to be careful then, said Hinata. Harry and Haku didn't hear the voice again until Halloween. They had left the feast early to see if they could get some more training in when they heard it again. There it is again, said Harry. It's about to attack something, exclaimed Haku. This way, she said. Harry and Haku took off with Naruto and Hinata behind them. Naruto tried to extend his senses but still could hear anything. I still can't hear anything, said Naruto. Harry and Haku came to a stop in front of a girl's bathroom that was flooding. It stops here, said Harry. They then all noticed the writing on the wall. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened, read Naruto. Enemies of the air, beware, he finished. What does that mean? He asked. Look, exclaimed Hinata, pointing next to the message. They looked and saw Mrs. Norris hanging by her tail from a torch bracket, stiff as a board. Is she dead? Asked Haku, looking closer. Naruto heard someone coming and shouted, incoming. They all jumped up and ran up the wall to see what is going on. They saw it was everyone leaving the Halloween feast. The crowd froze when they saw the message and Mrs. Norris. Some of them started screaming as Malfoy shouted, "You will be next, mudbloods." All four of them inwardly growled as they saw the professors come up. My cat, yelled Filch. Dumbledore came and took down Mrs. Norris before he started looking at her. She is not dead, Argus, said Dumbledore. Only petrified, he added. Which one of you did this? Growled Filch, glaring at the students. You can't think that a student did this, exclaimed McGonagall. No student here could have done this, said Dumbledore. Once Professor Sprout's mandrakes have fully matured, we will be able to make a potion to revive her, he said. He dismissed the crowd of students as Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku jumped down to join them. What do you think could have petrified Mrs. Norris? Asked Harry. Why couldn't I hear it? Asked Naruto. Maybe it was some type of animal, said Hinata. Like the Inuzuka being able to understand their dogs, she said. We need to research magical Kekii Genkai, said Haku. It was a few days later and all anyone could talk about was the Chamber of Secrets. All four of them were in the library discussing what Haku has found out on magical Kekii Genkai. What did you find out? Asked Naruto. There is a magical Kekii Genkai that allows you to talk to and control snakes, said Haku. The monster in the Chamber of Secrets must be some kind of snake then, said Hinata. That is what I thought, but I couldn't find any snake that just petrifies, said Haku. I know we are missing something, but I just don't know what, she said, frustrated. I know you can figure it out, Haku said, Harry hugging her. Haku smiled as she returned the hug. I guess Haku got Harry's magical Kekii Genkai from the blood bond, asked Naruto. Yes, said Kurama. The hissing wasn't distinct enough for you to separate it from other sounds, he said. That is why you couldn't hear it, he said. But them being able to understand it allowed them to, said Naruto. Exactly, said Kurama. It was time for the first Quidditch match of the year. In the Gryffindor locker room, Wood was giving his pep-up speech. The Slytherin team has been brought back down to a more equal level thanks to their unfortunate accident, said Wood, smiling. Haku smirked at that. So let's get out there and go show them why we are the champions, exclaimed Wood. The whole team cheered as they left the locker room. As the game began, Naruto, Hinata, and Haku stayed on the ground ready to jump in if one of the other players got knocked out. Harry was looking for the snitch when he had to dodge a bludger coming at him. He watched as it turned around and came after him again. He dodged it only for it to come back again, only for Fred to knock it away with his bat. But it soon came back only for Fred to knock it away again. "What is the matter with this thing?" shouted Fred. "I can handle this," exclaimed Harry. "You focus on the game," he said. "All right," said Fred, flying away. The bludger came back at Harry as he flew away with the bludger right behind him. "Got anything?" Hinata shouted Harry. Hinata was looking around the pitch with her Byakugan but didn't see anyone using magic. "No one is using magic," said Hinata. "It must have been tampered with beforehand," she said. "Great," said Harry sarcastically. "Guess I will have to handle it," he said. "What are you going to do?" asked Haku, worried. "Watch," said Harry. Harry turned around and took his hand off his broom and formed a Rasengan in it. He then started flying towards the bludger as it flew towards him. "Take this," shouted Harry. Rasengan. He struck the bludger, causing it to explode and blow him back. He quickly got him broom under control before he started looking for the snitch. He saw the snitch floating next to Malfoy's head, who was looking at Harry wide-eyed. Harry quickly dove at Malfoy, causing him to fly out of the way, and Harry caught the snitch, winning the game. After everyone got changed, Haku hugged Harry, exclaiming, "You did it. You completed the Rasengan," said Naruto. "How did you do it?" asked Hinata. "I don't know," said Harry. "I just did it," he said, shrugging his shoulders. "Do you think you could do it again?" asked Hinata. "I can try," said Harry. Haku let go of Harry as he held out his hand and a Rasengan formed in it. "Wow," said Hinata, watching it with her Byakugan. She then held out her hand and a Rasengan formed in it. "You did it, Hinata!" exclaimed Naruto. "I just did what Harry did," said Hinata. She explained everything she saw with her Byakugan, and eventually Naruto and Haku were able to form a Rasengan as well. A few days later, the school was told that Colin has been petrified. After class that day, Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku snuck into the infirmary to take a look at Colin. Hinata let out a gasp when she saw Colin. "I think I just figured out what we have been missing," said Hinata. She then ran out of the infirmary towards the library with Naruto, Harry, and Haku chasing after her. She arrived at the library and took out the book on magical snakes. She flipped through it before she found what she was looking for and showed it to the other three. "I think this is what it is," said Hinata, pointing to the picture. "A basilisk," said Naruto, reading it. "But Mrs. Norris and Colin aren't dead," he said. "That's because they didn't look at the basilisk directly," said Hinata. "The water," said Haku as she caught on. "Mrs. Norris must have seen the basilisk's reflection in it," she said. "Colin must have seen it through that camera he is always carrying around," said Harry. "That's why his hands were like that," he added. "Yes," said Hinata, nodding her head. "I am really glad that Kurama told me not to use my Byakugan now," she said, shivering. "Me too," said Naruto, holding her. The next day, as they were leaving class, they were approached by Ron and Hermione. "Harry, we need your help with something," said Hermione. "What is it?" asked Harry. "We can't talk about it here," said Hermione, looking around. "Follow me," she said. She led everyone to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. She was about to go inside when Harry stopped her. "Hermione, this is a girl's bathroom," said Harry. "I know," said Hermione. "But nobody uses it since it's Moaning Myrtle," she said. "Who is Moaning Myrtle?" asked Haku. "She is a ghost who haunts this bathroom," said Hermione, going inside. "Who would want to haunt a bathroom?" asked Naruto. Everyone followed Hermione into the bathroom, and she led them to one of the stalls. She opened it up and everyone saw a cauldron was on the toilet with a waterproof fire under it. "What are you doing?" asked Harry. "We think that Malfoy is the one behind the attack," said Ron. "We are making the polyjuice potion so we can get Malfoy to confess to everything," said Hermione. "We want you to make a distraction during our next potion class so I can steal the last ingredients we need from Snape's private stores," she said. "Leave it to Granger to overcomplicate things as usual," said Draco. "What do you expect from a know-it-all?" said Pansy, laughing. Crabbe and Goyle just laughed at that. Ron's and Hermione's eyes widened as they saw Draco, Pansy, Crab, and Goyle standing in front of them. Malfoy, growled Ron. He went to go for his wand only for Goyle to hit his hand, causing it to go numb. There was then 4 puffs of smoke as Harry, Haku, Naruto, and Hinata appeared from where Draco, Pansy, Crab, and Goyle were standing. What was that? Asked Hermione. Henge, said Naruto. You can look like anybody you want, asked Hermione. Correct, Ms. Granger, said McGonagall. 10 points to Gryffindor, she added. There was another puff of smoke as Haku appeared where Professor McGonagall was. You can get Malfoy to confess to everything without us having to finish the potion, said Ron. Yes, said Harry, nodding his head. We will tell you what we find out, he said. Once they left the bathroom, Naruto asked, do you really think Malfoy is behind all this? Yes and no, said Haku. I don't think that Draco is behind the attack, she said. But I do think that the house elf and the fight in the paper are connected to this, she said. So you think Draco's father might be behind what is causing the attacks and told his son to lay low along with giving him some information on the Chamber of Secrets, said Harry. Yes, said Haku. It was decided that Naruto and Harry would henge into Crab and Goyle since they were always around Malfoy. They spent the next week finding out where the Slytherin common room was, how to get inside, and how Crab and Goyle acted more closely. But before they could go interrogate Malfoy, they found out about the dueling club. I bet that greedy, posing faker is behind this, said Naruto. That night they went down to the Great Hall and saw that Naruto was right. Looks like I was right, said Naruto, sighing. Looks like he somehow convinced Snape to join him, said Haku, seeing Snape with Lockhart. I bet he really doesn't like that, said Harry. Maybe he will get rid of Lockhart for us, said Naruto hopefully. I don't think that will happen, said Hinata. Naruto pouted as Lockhart started talking. Gather around, everyone, gather around, said Lockhart. Can everyone see me? Can everyone hear me? He asked. Great, he said, taking off his cloak and throwing it into the crowd. A lot of older girls started fighting over it, causing Hinata and Haku to sigh. I have been given permission to start this little dueling club so that I may teach you how to defend yourselves like I have had to on countless occasions, said Lockhart. Yeah, right, said Harry. Let me introduce my assistant, Professor Snape, said Lockhart, waving his arm at Snape. Don't worry, you will still have your potions, Master, after I am through with him, he said, smiling. Then both Snape and Lockhart went to each ends of the stage and stood facing each other. Now that we are in our positions, we will cast our first spells at each other, said Lockhart. Expelliarmus, shouted Snape, shooting a red jet of light at Lockhart. It hit Lockhart, blasting him off the stage, and caused his wand to fly through the air and land near the center of the stage. Lockhart quickly got back up and got back on stage, picking up his wand. An excellent idea, showing them how to disarm Professor Snape, said Lockhart. But I knew what you were doing all along, and could have stopped you at any time if I had wanted to, he said, smiling. That's a lie, said Hinata. Maybe it would be wise to teach them how to block unfriendly spells first, said Snape. An excellent idea, said Lockhart. Potter, get up here, he said. Draco, said Snape. Both Harry and Draco got on stage and stood next to Lockhart and Snape respectfully. When he attacks you, just do this, said Lockhart, waving his wand around before dropping it. But Harry ignored him and kept his eyes on Malfoy. Begin, said Snape. Evrut statum, shouted Malfoy. Harry barely moved to dodge the spell. Rictus Semper, shouted Malfoy. Harry had to barely move again to dodge the spell. He then yawned while saying, is that really the best you can do? I guess the only thing you can really do is hide behind your father, he said. Draco started growling before Snape whispered something into his ear. He then smirked before shouting Serpensortia. A large black snake shot out of Malfoy's wand and landed in the middle of them before it started hissing at them. Does he really expect me to be afraid of that, thought Harry. Don't worry, I will get rid of it, said Lockhart. Harry highly doubted that as he started doing one-handed hand seals. Lockhart pointed his wand at the snake and instead of getting rid of it, he blasted it into the air. Sensatsu Suisho, shouted Harry. Multiple ice needles formed in the air around Harry and shot forward, killing the snake and causing Snape and Malfoy to jump off the stage to avoid them. Looks like I win, said Harry, smirking. Draco glared at Harry and went to get back on the stage only for Snape to stop him and lead him away. I could understand what the snake was saying, said Haku. Me too, said Harry. Do you think Snape might know about you being able to talk to snakes? Asked Naruto. I don't think so, said Hinata. He might have tried to scare Harry, she said. Like we would be scared of something that small, scoffed Naruto. The next time they planned to interrogate Malfoy was interrupted when another student was attacked along with a ghost. Justin Finch-Fletchley was found petrified behind the unconscious, floating form of nearly headless Nick. That was the nearest someone has come to dying yet, said Haku. It was only sheer dumb luck that Nick was there to block the full power of the basilisk's eyes, said Naruto. We need to interrogate Malfoy now, said Harry. Soon there was a mass exodus of students wanting to leave Hogwarts for the holidays. But the four of them found it strange that Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle were some of the few that were staying at Hogwarts. So they decided to interrogate Malfoy once the holidays started. Once the holidays started, Hinata and Haku found Crabbe and Goyle coming out of the Great Hall and knocked them out. They then pulled them into a nearby closet. Naruto and Harry hinged into Crabbe and Goyle and started on their way down to the Slytherin common room. When they arrived in the dungeons, they saw Malfoy in a discussion with Percy. There you are, said Draco, seeing them. Where were you? He asked. Eating, said Crabbe. I should have known, said Draco. Let's go, he said. Return to your common room now, ordered Percy, walking away. Stupid weasel, said Draco when Percy was gone. Probably thinks he can catch the heir of Slytherin by himself with all the sneaking around he has been doing, he said. He then took them into the Slytherin common room and sat down. Do you know who it is? Asked Goyle. You have forgotten about it again already, exclaimed Draco. How stupid can you get? He grumbled. I don't know who it is, and Father won't tell me about what happened when it was open last time, said Draco. He said it wouldn't look too good if I knew too much, he said. But he did tell me that a mudblood died the last time it was opened, he said. I hope it is Granger this time, he said, smirking. Both Crabbe and Goyle just nodded their heads. A few minutes later they started holding their stomachs, acting like they were sick. You ate too much again and got a stomachache again, said Draco, sighing, seeing them. Go get rid out it, he said, waving his hat. Crabbe and Goyle left the common room and released their henge when they were out of the dungeons. Naruto and Harry found Hinata and Haku and told them everything they found out. So I was right about Mr. Malfoy being behind this, said Haku. We just need to figure out how everything is connected, she said. Hinata looked at the nearby wall for a few moments before her eyes widened. What if the person that died last time never left where they died? Asked Hinata. Moaning Myrtle, said Harry. Haku's eyes widened as she caught on to what Hinata was thinking. You think it has been using the pipes to move around, said Haku. Yes, said Hinata. That is why nobody but the victims have seen it, and we saw nothing when you both heard the voice, she said. Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku ran up to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Me and Harry will stay out here while you and Haku go in, Hinata, said Naruto. Okay, said Hinata, nodding her head. Both Hinata and Haku went into the bathroom and heard crying. They went to the stall they heard it from and opened the door. They saw Moaning Myrtle floating over a toilet crying. What do you want? Shouted Myrtle, seeing them. We wanted to ask you how you died, said Hinata. It was dreadful, said Myrtle. It happened in this very stall, she explained. I was in here crying because of Olive Hornby making fun of my glasses, she continued. I then heard a boy's voice hiss something in what sounded like a made-up language, she continued. I opened the door to the stall to tell him to go away and I died, she finished. Just like that? Asked Haku. Yes, said Myrtle. Do you remember anything else? Asked Hinata. I do remember seeing a great big pair of yellow eyes over by that sink, said Myrtle, pointing at it. Moaning Myrtle then disappeared into her toilet as Hinata and Haku went to inspect the sink. They didn't find anything out of the ordinary, other than it not working, until they took a closer look at the faucet. They found a small snake engraved on it. This is the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets, said Hinata. No one has ever found it because you probably need to speak Parseltongue to open it, said Haku. They both left the bathroom and met up with Naruto and Harry. What did you find out? Asked Naruto. The entrance to the Chamber of Secrets and hidden under a sink that does not work with a snake engraved on the faucet, said Hinata. You probably need to speak Parseltongue to open it, said Haku. That is probably why no one has ever found it, she added. Makes sense that Slytherin would make sure only those with his Kekkei Genkai could open it, said Harry. What now? Asked Naruto. I don't think it would be a good idea for me to use Kage Bunshin to keep an eye on a girl's bathroom, he said. Even though I hate the idea, we are going to have to wait until the heir makes their next move, said Harry. I just hope no one dies next time, said Haku. We can't even take out the basilisk since that could cause the heir to disappear or use an easier way to kill someone, said Hinata. When Christmas was over and everyone came back, Harry went up to Ron and Hermione. It's not Malfoy, said Harry. Damn, said Ron. I was so sure it was him, he said. Did you find out anything else? Asked Hermione. No, said Harry, shaking his head. Thank you for your help, said Hermione. No problem, said Harry as he left. Since they were waiting for the heir to make their next move, they decided to start working on the Haration. Naruto took out the scroll for it and started reading it. It looks like one of the hardest parts of this is making the seal, said Naruto. How does it work? Asked Haku. You mark a location with the seal, then you can instantly go to that location when you activate it, explained Naruto. The amount of churka that is required varies depending on how far away the location is and if you take anyone with you, he finished. Our father put the seals on kunai that he threw out onto the battlefield that allowed him to flash around, he added. As they started working on the seal, time went by and it was soon time for Valentine's Day. As they went into the Great Hall for breakfast, they all froze as they looked at it. It was all covered in large pink flowers and pink heart-shaped confetti was falling from the ceiling. What happened to the Great Hall? Asked Haku, looking around. I bet that poser is behind this, grumbled Naruto. As they sat down to breakfast, Naruto found out that he was right. Good morning, everyone, proclaimed Lockhart in lucid pink robes. Happy Valentine's Day, he exclaimed. How can anyone think they look good in that color? Asked Hinata. I would like to thank the 46 people that have already sent me a Valentine's Day card, said Lockhart. I bet Hermione was one of them, thought Harry. I decided to arrange this surprise for you all, said Lockhart. But this is not all, he added. He clapped his hands and a large group of angry-looking dwarfs walked into the Great Hall. They were all wearing golden wings and carrying harps. My friendly card-carrying cupids will be delivering valentines to everyone all day today, proclaimed Lockhart. They don't look friendly to me, thought Hinata. I have a feeling I am going to using Kurama's chakra a lot today, thought Naruto. Naruto was right about that, as he kept having to use Kurama's chakra to scare the dwarfs away every time they came close to them until all the dwarfs feared them and wouldn't come near them. A few days later, after class was over, Ron and Hermione came running up to them. We found out who it is, said Hermione. It's Hagrid, said Ron. How did you come to that conclusion? Asked Harry. Ron told them all about Tom Riddle's diary. How he found it in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, him spilling ink on it, and it disappearing, him writing in it, and it replying back, and finally Tom showing him the memory of him capturing Hagrid. I don't think it was Hagrid, said Harry. Slytherin would only pick a snake for his monster, he said. Maybe he was caught with something different at the time, said Ron. Can you show me this diary? Asked Naruto. Sure, said Ron. They all went up the Gryffindor common room only for Neville to stop them at the portrait. Ron, exclaimed Neville. What is it, Neville? Asked Ron. Someone tore through all your stuff, said Neville. They all ran up to the boys' dorm and saw Ron's stuff was thrown everywhere. Is the diary gone? Asked Naruto. Ron looked through everything before saying yes. I think the diary is behind all this, said Naruto. It must be controlling whoever has it to do all of this, he said. It must have been a gradual thing and Ron didn't write in it long enough for anything to happen, said Hinata. Whoever had it must have seen Ron with it, and took it back before they could figure out how it worked and expose them, she said. They will probably keep it with them at all times now, afraid of people finding out what they did, she said. I think Tom Riddle is the real heir, said Harry. Hagrid must have had his reputation for liking dangerous creatures as a student, which made him the perfect fall guy, he said. At least now we know it is someone in Gryffindor, said Haku. It's too bad that Hermione didn't have the diary, she said. That would have narrowed it down to just the girls, she said. Why do you think that? Asked Harry. Boys are not allowed in the girls' dorm, said Haku. Whenever a boy steps on the staircase to the girls' dorm, it turns into a slide, she said. What did this diary look like? Asked Naruto. It was a little black book that you could buy in any store in London, said Hermione. So, Tom Riddle was muggle-born or a half-blood, said Harry. Thank you for telling us, he said. The four of them left the dorms and went to go research Tom Riddle. They found out that he was sorted into Slytherin, was a prefect and head boy, and received a special award for services to the school. He must have gotten that for capturing Hagrid, said Harry. He was awarded for killing an innocent person and ruining another person's life, said Hinata. It was soon time for the next Quidditch match. But before the match could begin, Professor McGonagall came running out on the field holding a large purple megaphone. This match has been cancelled, said McGonagall in the megaphone. All students are to return to your dorms immediately, she said. Your head of houses will explain what is going on, she said. She lowered the megaphone before going over to Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku. You four come with me, said McGonagall. There has been another attack, asked Harry. Yes, said McGonagall, nodding her head. On their way to the school, Ron ran up to them. Instead of sending him back to the other students, Professor McGonagall said, you better join us as well, Mr. Weasley. Not seeing Hermione with Ron, Hinata asked, Hermione was attacked, wasn't she? Yes, said McGonagall, nodding her head. Is she still alive, asked Haku. Yes, thankfully, said McGonagall. That's good, said Haku with a sigh of relief. Professor McGonagall took them up to the hospital wing where they saw Hermione laying on one of the beds. She was found near the library holding a mirror, said McGonagall. Hinata saw one of Hermione's hands was closed into a fist. She put her hand over Hermione's and felt paper in it. She found out about the basilisk and how everyone survived, said Hinata. I think Tom has switched targets, said Harry. You think he is after those around you now, asked Haku. Yes, said Harry. Ron must have written more in the diary than we thought, he said. I will take you all back to your dorm now, said McGonagall. I need to tell everyone in Gryffindor what happened, she added. They all left the hospital wing and headed towards the Gryffindor common room. When Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku arrived at the Gryffindor common room, they all went to a corner and sat down. We all need to be careful, said Harry. One of you could be next, he said. The other three nodded their heads at that. Let's all stay together and keep our senses sharp while in the hallways, said Naruto. The other three nodded their heads at that as well. Once Professor McGonagall left the common room, Ron came over to them. We need to go see Hagrid, said Ron. He didn't do it, said Harry. Maybe he knows what the monster is, said Ron. It's some type of snake, said Haku. Which makes it easy for someone speaking Parseltongue to control, she added. Maybe he knows where it is, said Ron. Hagrid does not know anything about the Chamber of Secrets, said Harry. He was just a fall guy for the real person that did it, he said. Well, I am going to talk to Hagrid since it appears that I am the only one who cares about Hermione, said Ron. He snuck to the entrance of the common room and left. He will be back soon, said Naruto. A few minutes later, an angry Professor McGonagall came back dragging a struggling Ron. She started yelling at him about what he did before she took away 100 points and gave him detention for the rest of the year. Once she was gone, Harry went over to Ron. I told you not to do it, said Harry. Shut up, shouted Ron. We could have gotten there if you had helped, he said. It was pointless to go there, said Harry. Ron growled as he tried to attack Harry, only for Fred and George to hold him back. We will take care of him, said Fred. You don't care about Hermione at all, do you? Shouted Ron. Harry didn't say anything as Fred and George took Ron up to his dorm. He then went back to Naruto, Hinata, and Haku. I don't think Ron is going to be our friend anymore, said Naruto. The next morning, even though they were being escorted by a professor, all four of them kept their senses sharp for anything that was going on around them. When they arrived at the Great Hall for breakfast, they saw that Dumbledore was gone. They were all told that he was suspended for what is happening. This must be part of Malfoy's endgame, said Haku. Maybe this could help us figure out who has the diary, said Naruto. He would give it to someone he wanted to ruin as well, he said. Harry's eyes widened as he thought of something. I think Ginny Weasley has it, said Harry. Why do you think that? Asked Haku. Because of that fight, said Harry. He could have done that to cover up slipping it into her books, he said. We need to check her trunk, said Hinata. When the owl post came, a smoking red letter was dropped in front of Ron by an owl that crashed into his bowl. Ron quickly picked up the letter and ran out of the Great Hall. Once he was outside, everyone in the Great Hall heard a loud voice that sounded like Mrs. Weasley, shouting about what happened last night and how disappointed in him they were about it. "What was that?" asked Naruto, covering his ears. "That was a howler," said Fred. "I guess Professor McGonagall told Mum about what happened last night," said George. "I take it your mother likes to send them," said Harry. "Yes," said Fred. "We used to get them all the time," said George. The next morning, Haku and Hinata each created a Kage Bunshin before going down to breakfast. Once everyone was gone, the Kage Bunshins went to the first-year girl dorms. Not knowing which trunk belonged to Ginny, they searched the entire dorm for the diary. But they didn't find it anywhere, so they dispelled themselves. Haku and Hinata received the memories from their Kage Bunshins and released a sigh. "I take it you didn't find the diary?" asked Naruto. "No," said Hinata. "She must be always keeping with her," said Haku. "We need to get it away from her," said Harry. "Let's do it this weekend," said Naruto. But they didn't make it to the weekend. While going to their next class on Friday, they heard a magical announcement. "All students return to your dorms at once, all professors to the staff room as soon as possible." "Another attack!" exclaimed Hinata. "To the bathroom," ordered Naruto. They all disappeared in a burst of speed as they ran towards Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Along the way, they unsealed Shinobi and Kunoichi outfits. When they arrived, they saw there was a new message on the wall underneath the old one. "Her skeleton will lie in the chamber forever," read Harry. "It appears the diary is more sentient than we thought," said Kurama. "Do you think it could be drawing power away from Ginny?" asked Hinata. "It might be," said Kurama. "How did it know we were after it?" asked Naruto. "Maybe it noticed we were keeping a closer eye on Ginny," said Harry. They ran into the bathroom, and Hinata pointed to the sink with the snake engraved on it. "Open," hissed Harry. There was a grinding sound as the sink moved out of the way, revealing a large pipe underneath it. "Stairs," hissed Harry. There was another grinding sound as stairs came out of the walls of the pipe. They all ran down the stairs and came into a large underground cavern. "Use your hitayatesh to cover your eyes," said Harry. The other three nodded their heads as Naruto and Hinata tied theirs to their forehead. They carefully moved through the cavern until they saw something up ahead. They all quickly brought down their hitayatesh over their eyes as they enhanced their other senses. They slowly moved forward with their senses sharp on the lookout what they saw. "I don't hear anything," said Naruto. They all slowly lifted their hitayatesh and saw a giant snake skin shedding in front of them. "It's only a snake skin shedding," said Harry. "This thing must be huge," exclaimed Naruto. "If it's still the same one Slytherin put here, it would be over 1,000 years old," said Haku. They carefully continued until they came to a large door that looked like it belongs on a vault. It had multiple snakes radiating outward from the center. "This must be the entrance to the chamber itself," said Haku. "Naruto, Hinata, I want you to stay out here and guard the entrance in case anything happens," said Harry. Naruto and Hinata nodded their heads at that. "Haku, I want you to stay hidden once we get into the chamber so that you can help me if I need it," said Harry. "Okay," said Haku, nodding her head. "Open," hissed Harry. A stone snake came out and went around the edge of the door, unlocking each stone snake until it got to the other side, causing the vault door to open. "Good luck," said Naruto. "Stay safe," said Hinata. "We will," said Harry and Haku. They went into the chamber and saw multiple statues of snakes along each side of the chamber acting as columns holding up the ceiling. At the end of the chamber they saw a giant statue of who they assumed was Salazar Slytherin. Haku jumped up onto one of the snakes and ran across them until she got to the best spot to observe the entire chamber. Harry walked up to the giant statue and saw Ginny lying at its feet. There was an open diary on the ground near her. That must be the diary, thought Harry. He knelt and checked Ginny. She felt cold to touch, but she barely has a pulse. She has been drained of her chakra, thought Harry. She won't wake up, said a voice. Harry got up and turned towards the voice. It was a teenage boy wearing Hogwarts robes that looked blurry around the edges. Hello, Tom, said Harry. You know who I am, asked Tom. Yes, said Harry, nodding his head. You are the one that controlled Ginny to attack those first gens, he said. They were my target, but now my target is you, said Tom. Because of what Ron wrote, said Harry. Yes, said Tom. You are smarter than you appear, he said. Maybe you can tell me how you were able to destroy Voldemort, The greatest wizard ever, he asked. I didn't do it, said Harry. It was something that my mother did that saved me, he said. But why do you want to know about him, he asked. Because Voldemort is my past, present, and future, said Tom. He took out Ginny's wand and wrote his full name, Tom Marvolo Riddle, in the air. He then slashed the wand, causing the letters to rearrange themselves into saying, I am Lord Voldemort. That is how you got your name, an anagram, said Harry. Do your followers call you I am Lord Voldemort, he asked, laughing. Don't mock me, shouted Tom. I am the greatest wizard ever, he exclaimed. You are not so great, said Harry. Everyone knows you're scared of Dumbledore, he said. I am not, shouted Tom. The mere memory of me has driven him from the castle, he said. That is not the reason he left, said Harry. The only reason he left was because Lucius Malfoy forced the other governors to suspend him, he said. You were just a pawn in his games, he said. I am nobody's pawn, shouted Tom. He forced himself to calm down before he said, I will enjoy watching the basilisk kill you and eat you. He turned around to face the giant statue of Slytherin. Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts, for his Tom. The statue's mouth opened wide as they all heard something coming out of it. Haku, get Ginny to safety now, said Harry. Right, said Haku. She created a Kaiga Bunshin that jumped down and grabbed Ginny before disappearing into a far-off corner. She is safe for now, said Haku. Thanks, said Harry. Harry jumped back and slid his Hitaik down over his eyes as he heard something big hit the ground. Harry extended his senses as he jumped back to avoid the basilisk. He then started jumping around, avoiding all the basilisk strikes. I can't keep this up forever, thought Harry. Soon you will tire out, Harry Potter, and that is when the basilisk will strike, said Tom. I need to think of something, thought Harry. That was when he heard a beautiful song as the basilisk hissed in pain and Tom yelled in rage. Get away from it, shouted Tom. Your phoenix may have blinded the basilisk, but it can still smell you, he said. Why did Fawkes show up, thought Harry. Harry lifted his Hittite and saw the basilisk for the first time. It was over 50 feet long and was a poisonous green color. He also saw that its eyes were destroyed. It's huge, thought Harry. Harry threw kunai and shuriken at the basilisk only for them to bounce off its hide. He then fired a Sensatsu Suisho at it only to get the same result. Next, he waited until it lunged at him before throwing kunai and shuriken and firing a Sensatsu Suisho into its mouth. But that only seemed to annoy it. I am going to need something longer, thought Harry. Fawkes flew by and dropped the sorting hat on his head. How is this supposed to help, asked Harry. The sorting hat started squeezing his head before something heavy hit the top of his head. Ow, shouted Harry, throwing the hat off. He heard something clang on the ground and looked down, and saw a golden sword with a ruby-encrusted hilt on the ground. That must be what hit me, thought Harry. He picked up the sword and swung it at the basilisk only for it to bounce off its hide. Time to do something stupid, thought Harry. Harry jumped back into the shadows. Trying to hide, Harry Potter, asked Tom. The basilisk will smell you out, he said. Harry ran out of the shadows and charged at the basilisk. The basilisk lunged at him as he thrust the sword into its mouth, and though its brain killing it. But that caused a fawn to piece his arm. You may have killed the basilisk, you will soon die as well, said Tom. I will stay here and watch, he said. Haku's eyes widened as she quickly made a Kaiga Bunshin that she gave Ginny to. She then jumped down and held out her hand, summoning the sword to her. Die, you bastard, shouted Haku, stabbing the diary. Yelled Tom as he exploded. Haku looked around for Harry but didn't see him anywhere. Did you really think I would do something that stupid myself, asked Harry. Haku spun around and saw that Harry was perfectly fine. Harry, yelled Haku. She ran up to him and hugged him before she kissed him. Harry's eyes widened before they slowly closed, and he returned it. After a few moments they separated. Where did that come from, asked Harry. I thought I would never get to tell you I love you, said Haku. You do, asked Harry, his eyes wide. Yes, said Haku, smiling. I love you too, Haku, said Harry. I never told you because I thought you only liked me as a brother, he said. I was the same, said Haku, teary-eyed. They then kissed again. Once they separated, Harry asked. Did you really think I would do that myself? Haku's eyes widened before she looked down. I should have known you would use Kagebunshin, said Haku. Harry lifted Haku's head up before he said, it's fine, you just got lost in the moment. He gave her a quick kiss before they both heard a groan. As they let go of each other and turned towards it, they saw that Ginny was waking up. It's over, said Harry. The basilisk's eyes have been destroyed, he said. We still can't get in, said Naruto. Oh yes, said Harry sheepishly. We will be out once Ginny wakes up, he said. Okay, said Naruto. Ginny slowly got up and looked around. Harry exclaimed, Ginny seeing him. It wasn't me, she said. I know, said Harry. You don't have to worry about it anymore, he said. Tom is nothing more than a memory now, he said. Let's get out of here, said Haku. Okay, said Ginny, getting up. Harry walked over to the sword and took it out of the diary. He then expanded one of his pouches and put the sword into it. Haku picked up the destroyed diary and put it away. Let's go, said Harry. They left the chamber with Fox following behind them carrying the sorting hat. Why is Fox here? Asked Naruto, seeing him. He brought the sorting hat that I got a sword from, and he then destroyed the basilisk's eyes, explained Harry. You got a sword from the sorting hat? Asked Hinata, skeptical. Yep, said Harry, taking it out. He then used the Kagebunshin to kill the basilisk, said Haku. What about the diary? Asked Naruto. I destroyed that with the sword, said Haku, taking out the destroyed diary. Why did you destroy it? Asked Hinata. I was closer when Harry's Kagebunshin dropped the sword, said Haku. Harry put the sword away and Haku put away the destroyed diary as Fox flew in front of them and shook his tail feathers. Do you want us to grab on? Asked Hinata. Fox nodded his head. All 5 of them grabbed onto Foxtail feathers and they all disappeared in a burst of fire. They all appeared in Professor Dumbledore's office in a burst of fire, and saw that Dumbledore and the Weasleys were already there. Ginny, shouted Molly, seeing them. Mum, shouted Ginny, letting go of Fox and running into her mother's arms. I take it you were successful in defeating Slytherin's monster? Asked Dumbledore. Yes, sir, said Harry. Thank you for saving her, said Arthur. I was just doing my duty, said Harry. How did you do it? Asked Arthur. I would like to know that as well, said Dumbledore. Haku took out the destroyed diary and put it on Dumbledore's desk. It was all because of this, said Haku. They then explained everything that happened. Ginny, what did I teach you about things that talk back? Said Arthur. Don't trust anything if you don't know where it keeps its brains, he said. I'm sorry, cried Ginny. I found it in my books and thought someone got it for me and forgot to tell me about it, she said. It's not her fault, Arthur, said Dumbledore. Older and far wiser wizards and witches had fallen under Tom's sway, he said. You know who this Tom is then? Asked Molly. Yes, said Dumbledore, nodding his head. It's the birth name of Voldemort, he said. The Weasleys' eyes widened at that, and Molly tightened her hold on Ginny. Ginny was under you-know-whose control, exclaimed Molly. Yes, said Dumbledore, nodding his head. Why don't you take Miss Weasley to the hospital wing to make sure she is fine after the terrible ordeal she has gone through, he said. Arthur and Molly nodded their heads and quickly left with Ginny. Once they were gone, Harry asked, is this what you mean by that he wasn't dead? Not really, but this does prove some of the theories that I had, said Dumbledore. I will need to do some research to find out if they are really true, he said. I will tell you what I find out, he said. The 4 of them nodded their heads at that. They went to leave when the door slammed open and Lucius Malfoy walked in, followed by a house elf that they recognized. So, you have returned, said Lucius. Yes, said Dumbledore, nodding his head. The other governors wanted me to return after they heard what happened to Miss Weasley, he said. They also said you threatened them to remove me, he added. I do not know what you are talking about, said Lucius. Did you find out who did it, he asked. Yes, we did, said Dumbledore. Who was it? Asked Lucius. Tom Riddle, the one who did it last time, said Dumbledore. I see, said Lucius. I would make sure that no more of Voldemort's school things make their way into the wrong hands, said Dumbledore, giving Malfoy a stern look. I do not own anything like that, said Lucius. Let's go, Dobby, he said, leaving. He then left the office. Harry got a smirk on his face as he grabbed the destroyed diary and ran after Malfoy. "What are you doing?" Harry asked Haku. "You will see," said Harry. Harry caught up to Malfoy and threw the diary at him. Malfoy turned around and caught the diary. "I think you forgot that," said Harry. "This is not mine," said Lucius, throwing the diary away. Dobby caught the diary and Harry motioned him to open it. Dobby opened the diary and his eyes widened when he saw the sock. "Let's go, Dobby," said Lucius. "Master has given Dobby a sock," said Dobby. "What?" yelled Lucius, spinning around. "Dobby is free," said Dobby. "You lost me, my servant," growled Lucius. As Malfoy drew his wand, Harry knocked Dobby away so he wouldn't interfere. "Avada Kedavra," hissed Malfoy. Harry smirked as he used Kawarimi and switched with Malfoy. Malfoy's eyes widened as he was struck dead by his own killing curse. Harry created a Kage Bunshin that hinged into Lucius Malfoy. "You will meet the same end as your parents, Potter," said Malfoy. He then stalked away. Once the Kage Bunshin was beyond the gates of Hogwarts, it dispelled. Then Dobby's body hit the ground. "You missed something," said Haku. "No, I didn't," said Harry. "I knew you were there backing me up," he said. Haku smiled at that as they got rid of the body. They met up with Naruto and Hinata and went back to their common room. Once there, Harry and Haku told Naruto and Hinata how they got together. "I'm so happy for you," said Hinata, hugging Haku. "I told you that you had nothing to worry about," she said. "You are the only one I trust with my sister," said Naruto. "Thank you," said Harry. On the last day of school, they were called to Professor Dumbledore's office. "You wanted to see us, sir?" asked Harry. "Yes," said Dumbledore, nodding his head. "I have received a letter from Sarutobi," he said. "He wants you four to return to Konoha for the summer," he said. "For what?" asked Naruto. "He didn't say," said Dumbledore. "He wants all four of us to come," asked Harry. "Yes," said Dumbledore, nodding his head. "Go pack up everything and come back here," he said. The four of them nodded and left Dumbledore's office. They went back to their dorms and packed everything up. They put their shrunken trunks in their pouches and left the dorms. They then went back to Dumbledore's office. "Welcome back," said Dumbledore, seeing them. "Fawkes will take you to Konoha and come pick you up at the end of summer," he explained. "I will see you then," he said. Fawkes flew over to them, and all four of them grabbed onto him, and they all disappeared in a burst of fire. They appeared in the Hokage's office as Fawkes flamed away. "Welcome to Konoha," said Hiruzen. "It's nice to see you again, Hokage-sama," said Hinata, bowing. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Hokage-sama," said Haku. "Why did you call us here?" asked Naruto. "Konoha is going to be hosting the Chunin exams soon and I wanted you four to compete in them," explained Hiruzen. "Thank you for this honor," said Harry. "I will contact you when they begin," said Hiruzen. All four of them left the Hokage's office and went outside. "Where are we going to stay?" asked Harry. "I think it would be best for you and Haku to get your own lodgings while me and Naruto stay at my clan's estate," said Hinata. "You think that they won't let us in?" asked Haku. "Yes," said Hinata, nodding her head. "I might have to convince them to let Naruto in," she said. "Okay," said Haku. "Where do you want us to meet up?" asked Harry. "Let's meet up at the Hokage Tower," said Hinata. "Okay," said Harry. "Good luck," said Haku. Naruto and Hinata separated from them and headed towards the Hyuga clan estate. When they arrived at the estate, the guard stopped them. "Halt," said the first guard. "Identify yourself," said the second guard. "Have you really forgotten about the eldest of the clan head?" asked Hinata. Both guards took a closer look at them, and their eyes widened. "Hinata-sama," exclaimed the first guard. "What are you doing here?" asked the second guard. "Hokage-sama asked us to return for the Chunin exam," said Hinata. "Please inform my father that I am here," she said. "Of course," said the first guard, heading inside. He soon came back with Hayashi Hyuga. "Welcome back, Hinata," said Hayashi, seeing her. "Thank you, father," said Hinata, bowing. "It's an honor to meet you," said Naruto, bowing. "You look just like your father," said Hayashi. "Thank you," said Naruto. They went into the estate and headed to Hayashi's office only to be stopped by the elders. "So you have come back," said one of the elders. Why are you even here? Asked another one. Hokage-sama asked us to come back for the Chunin exam, said Hinata. I have come to stay at my family's estate. While doing that, she said. Why is he here? Asked one of the elders, pointing at Naruto. Why shouldn't my fiancé be here? Said Hinata. This is supposed to be the Yandame's son, said one of the elders, scoffing. Naruto held out his hand and formed a Rasengan. He then threw down a 3-pronged kunai in front of the elders and flashed to it. All the elders backed up as Naruto let the Rasengan dissipate. That enough proof for you? Asked Naruto. The elders nodded their heads as they quickly left. Naruto picked up the 3-pronged kunai and put it away. That was awesome! Exclaimed Hanabi, coming around the corner. Hanabi-chan! Exclaimed Hinata. Nei-chan! Shouted Hanabi. She ran up to Hinata and hugged her. I miss you! Cried Hanabi. I miss you so much, Hanabi-chan, said Hinata, returning it. I'm sorry that I left you, she said, tightening her hold on Hanabi. It's okay, Nei-chan, said Hanabi. To-sama explained why you had to leave, she said. Thank you, said Hinata, crying. Once they calmed down and let go of each other, Hayashi said, let's continue to my office. Once they arrived at Hayashi's office, they all sat down with Hinata pulling Hanabi onto her lap. It is very impressive that you have mastered both of your father's jutsu, said Hayashi. I have only mastered the Rasengan, said Naruto. I still have to see where I am flashing to, he said. It's still impressive to get that far at your age, said Hayashi. Hinata helped out a lot with the Rasengan, said Naruto. Hinata held out her hand and formed a Rasengan. Wow, said Hanabi in awe. Very good, Hinata, said Hayashi. Thank you, father, said Hinata, letting the Rasengan dissipate. Is your sister and that boy you were staying with you? Asked Hayashi. They are, said Naruto. But we thought it best that they find separate lodgings, said Hinata. That is correct, said Hayashi. Could you show me what you have been learning? He asked. Sure, said Naruto excitedly. Naruto took out his wand, causing Hayashi to look at it. That is required to perform these jutsu? Asked Hayashi. That is correct, said Hinata. They each possess a core of a magical animal, she explained. Mine has a unicorn tail hair as a core, she said. Unicorns are real? Exclaimed Hanabi. Yes, said Hinata, nodding her head. All the mythological animals are real, she said. Wow, said Hanabi in awe. A phoenix brought us here and will bring us back, said Naruto. Could you give a demonstration now? Asked Hayashi. Sure, said Naruto. He waved his wand at a paperweight and transfigured it into a bird. Hayashi's and Hanabi's eyes widened and they activated their Byakugan. It's real, exclaimed Hanabi. Fascinating, said Hayashi. The bird went to take off only for Naruto to change it back, causing the paperweight to crash onto the desk. It's back to normal, said Hayashi. Naruto then conjured a kunai. Hayashi picked it up and it had the feeling and the weight of a kunai. He slit his finger and a drop of blood came out. It's a real kunai, said Hayashi. That could save you a lot of money, said Hanabi. Is it permanent? Asked Hayashi. No, said Naruto, shaking his head. It will disappear once it is out of chakra, he said. As he said that, the kunai disappeared from Hayashi's hand. It disappeared like a genjutsu, said Hayashi. Could I learn that? Asked Hanabi. You could, said Hinata. But you would have to leave father and everyone else here behind, she said. Oh, said Hanabi, sadly looking down. You both can stay in your old room, Hinata, said Hayashi. But I don't want any funny business while you are here, he said, glaring at Naruto. Of course, said Naruto quickly. Good, said Hayashi. All three of them left Hayashi's office and Hanabi gave Hinata one more hug before she left to go to her room. Then Naruto and Hinata went to Hinata's old room. Once they got there, they contacted Harry and Haku. Did you find a place to stay? Asked Naruto. We did, said Harry. How did it go with your clan? Asked Haku. As expected, said Hinata. Hanabi forgave me for leaving her, she said happily. I told you had nothing to worry about, said Haku. The next morning after breakfast, Hayashi was taking Hinata, Hanabi, and Naruto to one of the training rooms. Along the way they were stopped by the elders. What do you need? Asked Hayashi. We need to test to see who will become the heir, said the elder. That will not be necessary, said Hinata. I will be leaving once the Chunin exams are over, so Hanabi will still be the heir, she explained. Besides, I am going to become the head wife of the Namikes and Uzumaki clans, so I can't be the heir, she added. The elders walked away grumbling at that. Expertly done, Hinata, said Hayashi. Thank you, father, said Hinata. They are just like those pure-blood idiots, grumbled Naruto. The political climate is similar there as it is here, said Hayashi. It is, said Hinata. She then explained the political climate of the magical world and the ramifications of it. How interesting, said Hayashi. They arrived at the training room and went inside. I would like to see how your training is coming along, said Hayashi. Of course, said Hinata. Both Hinata and Hanabi activated their Byakugan and got into their stances. Begin, ordered Hayashi. Hanabi charged forward and started attacking Hinata only for her to gracefully dodge them all. This continued for a little while until Hinata ended it with a palm strike to Hanabi's chest with no chakra. That's enough, said Hayashi. Your training is coming along well, Hinata, he said. Thank you, said Hinata, bowing. I couldn't hit you at all, said Hanabi, grumbling. I just have more experience fighting opponents than you do, said Hinata. You changed the flow of the Juken, said Hayashi. I did, said Hinata. I found the stances were too rigid for me, she said. So Haku helped me make them flow into one another better, she said. Your mother had the same issue and did the same, said Hayashi. Hinata smiled at that. Once training was done, Naruto and Hinata left the Hyuga estate with Hanabi joining them, and went to go meet with Harry and Haku. Is this your sister, Hinata asked Haku, seeing them. She is, said Hinata. My name is Hanabi Hyuga. It's nice to meet you, she said, bowing. It's nice to meet you as well, said Haku. My name is Haku Namikaze. I'm Harry Potter. I never heard a name like that before, said Hanabi. I am from where they are staying, said Harry. Okay, said Hanabi. A week later, the four of them were told to go to the third floor of the academy for the beginning of the Chunin exams. They went inside and found a large group of genin on the second floor. Oh great, a genjutsu, said Naruto. Let's just ignore it and continue on, said Haku. They walked past the large group of genin and went up to the real third floor. They went through double doors into a large room filled with genin from different villages. The four of them went to a corner and observed everyone. It looks like all the clan heirs are here, said Hinata. They must want to show off, said Harry. They watched as an older genin approached the clan heirs and tried to give them information. A foreign genin ran up to them and tried to punch the older genin with a device on their arm and missed. But the older genin still fell to his knees and Naruto flinched. I think he just attacked using sound waves, said Naruto. He missed on purpose, said Harry. A group of people appeared in the back of the room in a puff of smoke led by a heavily scarred man. No attacking unless you're told, shouted Ibiki. Sorry, said the foreign genin. Just got a little excited, he said. Take a number and sit down, shouted Ibiki. All the genin took a number and sat down in the large classroom. All four of them noticed they were in different parts of the classroom. Your first exam is a written exam, explained Ibiki. You will have an hour to do it, and the final question will be given to you when 15 minutes are left, he continued. If you are caught cheating 3 times, then your whole team will be kicked out, he finished. Begin, he yelled. All the genin flipped over their papers and started working on the questions. Why did it have to be a written test, grumbled Naruto. I don't know any of these questions, he grumbled. I think that's the point, said Harry. They want us to cheat and not get caught, he said. Some people have already started writing, said Hinata. They must be plants to cheat off of, said Haku. I will get the answers and give them to you, said Hinata. Thanks, said Naruto. Hinata put a genjutsu over her eyes as she activated her Byakugan. She then started writing down the answers while telling them to her teammates at the same time. Once the 45 minutes were up, a quarter of the room was already gone. Pencils down, yelled Ibiki. Now there are some extra rules for the final question, he explained. If you take the final question and get it wrong, then you will be barred from ever taking the Chunin exams ever again, he continued. What, yelled the genin. You can't do that, they shouted. We have taken it multiple times, some of them shouted. My exam, my rules, said Ibiki, smirking. If you don't want to risk it, then you can go ahead and raise your hand and leave, he said. But if one person leaves, then their whole team has to leave, he added. After 15 minutes were over, there was little over half the class left. Anyone else want to leave? Asked Ibiki. No one moved. You all pass, said Ibiki, smirking. What? Yelled all the genin. A black ball of fabric crashed through a window and stuck to the wall next to Ibiki. It said, Proctor of the second exam Anko Mitarashi. A lady with plum hair wearing fishnet and a trench coat appeared in front of the sign. Mrs. Weasley would have a heart attack seeing her, said Haku. You're early, said Ibiki. Sorry, said Anko sheepishly. What about the last question? Shouted a genin. You just answered it, said Ibiki. It was, are you willing to risk everything to become a chunin, he said. Because that is what chunin do every time they take a mission, he explained. You let over half of them pass, exclaimed Anko. We have a good group this time, said Ibiki. I will have them cut in half by the time I am done with them, said Anko, smirking. Now follow me to the forest of death, she shouted, jumping out of the window. All the genin got up and followed her. They soon all arrived at a large forest surrounded by a giant fence. Welcome to training ground number 44, known as the Forest of Death, said Anko. Several roars came out of the forest right after that. Each team will be given one of these two scrolls, explained Anko, holding up Heaven Scroll and an Earth Scroll. Your task is to get the other scroll from another team and get to the tower in the center of the forest in 5 days, she continued. What about food? Asked a genin. You will have to hunt for it, said Anko. You are not allowed to open the scrolls until you are in the tower, she explained. If you open them any time before then, you will be disqualified, she continued. If you don't make it to the tower within 5 days, we will come get you eventually, she continued. Each of you needs to sign this form saying Konoha is not at fault when you die, she continued, holding up a form. One person from each team need to bring up all their forms, and they will be a scroll and gate number, she finished. Forms were passed out to all the teams. Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku immediately signed theirs and handed them to Harry. He went up to the desk and handed over the forms and received a Heaven Scroll. He sealed it away to cover up, sending a tracking charm into the box of Earth Scrolls. He then went back to his team, and they were led to their gate. The second stage of the Chunin exams begins now, shouted Anko. All the gates opened and all the genin ran into the forest. Hinata activated her Byakugan as Harry led them to the Earth Scroll. He tagged with the tracking charm. They eventually found a Kusa team trying to set up some traps. Both Harry and Haku used Sensatsu Suisho, turning them into ice Saban pin cushions. Naruto jumped down and grabbed the Earth Scroll before they left the area. Once they were clear of the area, they took out their brooms and flew to the tower in the center. They stopped at the edge of the tree line and put their brooms away before jumping down. They went into the tower and came into a room with a large scroll at the other end missing 2 words. Naruto and Harry took out the scrolls and opened them, causing them to start smoking. They threw them on the floor and a Konoha Chunin appeared. Congratulations on completing the second stage of the Chunin exam, said the Chunin. You are the second to arrive, he said. Who was first? Asked Naruto. The team from Suna, said the Chunin. You will have to stay here until the 5 days are up, he said. Let me show you around before showing you to your rooms, he said. After being showed to their rooms, they went down to the cafeteria to get something to eat. When they went in, they saw the team from Suna was there as well. The one with gourd is Shikaku's container, said Kurama. From the feel of his chakra, whoever did the ceiling did a really bad job, he said. I am the only one who should fight him then, asked Naruto. Correct, said Kurama. If the boy loses control, I will have to take over, he said. Understood, said Naruto. Once the 5 days were over, everyone that made it through the second exam was called to the arena in the tower. Congratulations to everyone that passed the second exam, said Sarutobi. Before we start the third exam, I will tell you the real purpose of the Chunin exams, he said. He explained that the Chunin exams were created as a way for the villages to show off without going to war. Now I will explain the rules of the third exam, said Sarutobi. Allow me, Hokage-sama, said a sickly-looking Jonin stepping up. Of course, said Sarutobi stepping back. I am Hate Geku, the proctor of the third exam. Due to so many of you finishing the second exam, We will need to have preliminaries, he said. Why do we need them? Asked Sakura. Since a lot of dignitaries will be visiting for the third exam, we will have limited time to complete them, meaning less fights, explained Hate. Now 2 names will randomly appear on the screen behind me. He points up at the screen that came out of the wall. Whoever wins will go on to the third exam, he explained. If I see that one of the fighters can no longer continue, then I will stop the fight, he continued. If you don't listen to me, you will be disqualified, he finished. Now, anyone who feels they can't fight can leave now, he said. This is no longer a team competition, he added. A genin named Kabuto quit and left the arena. Once the 2 names appear on the screen, everyone but those 2 will leave and go to walkways above, said Hate. Names flashed by on the screen until they stopped on Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akato. Everyone but those 2 genin went up to the walkways above. That is when everyone noticed that there was no Jonin sensei standing with Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku. Where is your sensei? Asked Sakura. We don't have one, said Naruto. Because you are failures, said Neji. We were second to arrive, said Naruto. Look, scoffed Neji. Before it could escalate further, the fight between Sasuke and Yoroi began. Yoroi tried to suck out Sasuke chakra, but he quickly overpowered Yoroi using a move he stole from Lee, winning the match. Kakashi appeared next to Sasuke, grabbed him, and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. The next match was Shino Aburame vs Zaku Abumi. Zaku tried to shoot compressed air from the pipes in his arms only for Shino to block them with his bugs. That caused him to explode his arms off. Shino won while Zaku was carted out of the arena. The next match was Kankuro vs Masumi Tsurugi. Masumi showed off that his body was like rubber and wrapped around Kankuro. He tried to snap Kankuro's neck only to find out that it was a puppet. The puppet wrapped around Masumi and started crushing his body until the match was called in Kankuro's favor. The next match was Sakura Haruno vs Ino Yamanaka. It was a boring, dragged-out match that ended with both knocking each other out. That was pathetic, said Haku. How did they get this far? Asked Harry. With the help of their teammates, said Naruto. The next match was Temari vs Tenten. Tenten started by throwing multiple kunai and shuriken at Temari only for her to blow them off course with her fan. Tenten tried again with even more kunai and shuriken, but the same thing happened. Tenten then showed she had ninja wire connected to all her weapons. She lifted them all up and sent them at Temari. Temari completely unfurled her fan and created a tornado that sucked in Tenten and all her weapons. Once it was over, Tenten's unconscious body started falling to the ground. Temari held out her folded-up fan to catch Tenten's body on. But Harry discreetly sent a banishing charm at Tenten, causing her to land next to Temari. Temari looked confused for a second before shrugging her shoulders and leaving the arena. There was no need for that, said Harry. The next match was Shikamaru Nara vs Kinsuchi. Kin started by throwing Senbon with bells on them to catch Shikamaru in her genjutsu by pulling the ninja wire attached to them. But Shikamaru snuck his shadow to Kin by making it look like it was the ninja wire's shadow. He caught Kin and made her take a few steps back and throw her head back, knocking herself out on the wall. The next 2 names to show up were Naruto Namikaze vs Kiba Inuzuka. This is going to be easy, shouted Kiba, jumping down with his dog. Naruto just jumped down and landed on the other side. Naruto Namikaze vs Kiba Inuzuka, begin, said Hate. Naruto took out a kunai and threw it at Kiba and missed. You missed, laughed Kiba. Naruto disappeared in a yellow flash and reappeared behind Kiba holding a kunai to his neck. Did I, said Naruto, smirking. Winner, Naruto Namikaze, said Hate. Naruto put both kunai away and jumped back up to the walkway. What just happened? Asked Kiba, confused. You got cocky, said Kurenai, dragging Kiba back up to the walkway. The next 2 names to show up were Hinata Hyuga vs Neji Hyuga. You can do it, Hinata exclaimed Naruto. How will you humiliate him? He asked. You will see, said Hinata. They both jumped down and landed on either side of the arena. You are fated to lose as a weakling, said Neji. We will see, said Hinata, smiling. Hinata Hyuga vs Neji Hyuga, begin, said Hate. They both got into their stances and charged forward. Hinata surrounded her arm in chakra and sent it forward. Neji smirked as he knocked her arm away. But that is what Hinata wanted. Stupefied, thought Hinata. The stunning spell shot from her holstered wand on her arm, hitting Neji's arm, knocking him out. He collapsed onto Hinata's arm, who pushed him onto the ground. Winner, Hinata Hyuga, said Hate. Nice one, exclaimed Naruto. How did you do that? Asked Haku. I found out that I can cast spells by surrounding my wand with chakra and doing the motions with my arm, said Hinata. Which makes the stunning spell easy to do with the Jukin since it has no motions, said Harry. Correct, said Hinata. The next match was Lee versus Gaara. That is Shikaku's container, and he is barely being held back, said Kurama. This will not end well, he said. Lee shot off and started attacking Gaara, who just stood tanking everything. Lee stopped attacking and took off the weights on his legs, causing 2 large craters. How did he move so fast with that much weight on his legs? Exclaimed Harry. Lee disappeared in a burst of speed and kicked Gaara, causing a crack to appear on his face with sand spilling out of it. He covered himself in sand and is using it as armor, said Kurama. That must be really irritating, said Harry. It must get everywhere, he added. Lee started releasing a lot of chakra, causing him to be surrounded by it. He started kicking Gaara into the air and wrapped him in his bandages before throwing Gaara into the ground. Gaara's gourd collapsed into sand and cushioned his fall while Lee crashed into the ground. Sand shot out and grabbed Lee, crushing one of his arms and legs. The match was called before more damage could be done. The next match was Choji Akimichi versus Dosu Kinyuta. Choji enlarged himself and started spinning towards Dosu, who punched him with his melody arm, knocking him out. The next 2 names to show up on the board were Haku Namikaze versus Hiro Naira. They both jumped down onto either side of the arena. Why do you just give up and go out with me? Said Hiro, smirking. Haku just glared at him. Haku Namikaze versus Hiro Naira, begin, said Hate. Haku shot forward and punched Hiro in the stomach, causing him to cough out blood. She then kicked him into the air and formed a Rasengan. She shot up and blasted Hiro through the ceiling with her Rasengan. That is my answer, huffed Haku, landing on the ground. Winner, Haku Namikaze, said Hate. The last 2 names to show up on the board were Harry Potter versus Fuki Saimiri. They both jumped down to either side of the arena. What a funny sounding name, laughed Fuki. Once I beat you, Sasuke will see that I am better than Sakura, she said. Great, another fangirl, sighed Harry. You do know that he is not here, right? He asked. Fuki growled at that. Harry Potter versus Fuki Saimiri, begin, said Hate. Fuki charged forward with her fist held back to hit Harry. Harry summoned the sword of Gryffindor and sent a tripping jinx at Fuki. She fell to the ground and slid near Harry. He put his foot on her neck and held his sword against it. Winner, Harry Potter, said Hate. Wow, that was worse than the fangirl fight, said Naruto. Would the rest of the winners come down to arena floor? Said Hate. The rest of the winners came down to the arena floor while Kakashi stood in for Sasuke. Enko came up from behind Hate and stood next to him holding a large box. We are going to draw lots to determine the placements for the 3rd round, said Hate. Enko walked past the remaining genin, and they each took out a lot and read the number aloud. Hate wrote each name down on the bracket. 1 said Shino. 2 said Kankuro. 3 said Tamari. 4 said Shikamaru. 5 said Kakashi. 6 said Gaara. 7 said Naruto. 8 said Hinata. 9 said Haku. 10 said Harry. 11 said Dosu. Here are the first round matches, said Hate, showing the bracket. Shino versus Kankuro. Tamari versus Shikamaru. Sasuke versus Gaara. Naruto Namikaze versus Hinata Hyuga. Haku Namikaze versus Harry Potter. Dosu Kinyuta will automatically go on to the 2nd round, he finished. The 3rd round will begin in a month's time to give you time to rest and train, said Sarutobi. Dismissed, he said. The remaining genin left the tower. Once Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku left the Forest of Death, Naruto said, we are going to have to fight each other. It's not going to be any different from when we are sparring, said Harry. Just that we are going to be doing it in front of a large crowd, said Haku. How should we go about doing it? Asked Hinata. Probably what they would expect, said Naruto. So, we would stick with taijutsu, said Hinata. At first, said Naruto. I will stick with kenjutsu the sword gave me, said Harry. Could you teach me that? Asked Haku. Our Kekkei Genkai would make things boring, she added. Sure, said Harry, smiling. Harry and Haku went looking for a sword like the sword of Gryffindor but could not find one. We should have known we wouldn't find a European sword here, said Haku. Maybe you could create an ice sword, said Harry. That way you could still show you your Kekkei Genkai, he added. That is a great idea, said Haku. But would it hold up to your sword, she asked. Let's find out, said Harry. While Naruto and Hinata were training, they noticed that someone was watching them. Naruto threw a kunai at them and flashed to it with a Rasengan ready. An old white-haired man jumped out and landed in front of them. You already know both of them, exclaimed the old man. Who are you, asked Hinata. That's your father's old teacher Jiraiya, said Kurama. I am the Toad Sennin, Jiraiya, he exclaimed with a weird pose. What do you want, asked Naruto. I want to help train you, said Jiraiya. With what, asked Naruto. I see you already know your father's jutsu, said Jiraiya. I can help control Kyuubi's chakra, he said. Kurama scoffed at that. No, I don't want to hurt her, said Naruto. You have to learn control, said Jiraiya. Talk to the Hokage about that, said Naruto. Let's go, said Hinata. How about I teach you to summon toads, said Jiraiya. That can be used to summon you back here, said Kurama. No, said Naruto. Naruto grabbed Hinata and disappeared in a flash. Haku was proven right. She could not make an ice sword strong enough to match Harry's sword. Any ice sword that was strong enough was too big and heavy for her to use. So, they settled on working on conjuring. She was able to conjure a sword and even made it look like ice so she could show off her Kekkei Genkai. Finally, the day of the third round of the Chunin exam came. Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku stood in the stadium with the other finalists. They noticed that Dosu Kinyuta and Sasuke Uchiha were not there yet. A Chunin chewing on a toothpick appeared in front of them. Welcome, said Genma. Dosu Kinyuta has dropped out and will not be fighting, he said. There was a swirl of leaves as Kakashi and Sasuke appeared next to Genma. We are not late, are we, asked Kakashi? No, said Genma, shaking his head. You are actually on time for a change, he said. Go join the others, he said. Sasuke huffed as he joined the other genin in line. The first match would be Shino Abirame versus Kankuro, said Genma. Everyone else go to the waiting room, he added. I forfeit, said Kankuro before anyone could leave. The crowd started booing him. Fine, said Genma. Shino Abirame wins, he said. The next match is Shikamaru Nara versus Temari, he said. Everyone but Shikamaru and Temari left the stadium floor and went to the waiting room. It was a cerebral battle with Shikamaru and Temari continuing to outthink the other. It ended when Shikamaru caught Temari with his shadow. He then gave up, saying he was out of chakra, causing Temari to win. The next battle was Sasuke versus Gaara. But before it could begin, feathers started falling from the sky and everyone started falling asleep. Genjutsu, said Kurama. Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku dispelled the genjutsu on themselves as multiple explosions rocked the village. It's an invasion, shouted Hinata. They then saw Temari and Kankuro jump down and grab Gaara before leaving the arena. Sasuke soon chased after them. That is why he didn't fight, said Naruto. Looks like we aren't going to fight either, said Harry. Go after them, Naruto, said Kurama. They might plan to release Shikaku, he said. Right, said Naruto. Be careful, said Hinata. I will, said Naruto. You all stay safe as well, he said. Hinata, Harry, and Haku nodded their heads as Naruto took off after Sasuke. Let's go see where we can help out, said Haku. Harry and Hinata nodded their heads as all three of them left the arena. Harry and Haku took out their brooms and took to the sky before they started bombing the enemy, while Hinata started looking for stragglers and those that were injured and helped them get to safety. Naruto finally caught up to Sasuke only to see him get crushed by Gaara's sand. Red chakra exploded from Naruto and took the shape of a fox with 3 tails. I will have your blood, shouted Gaara. He shot multiple sand streams at Naruto. Multiple chakra claws shot out of Kurama's chakra cloak and destroyed the sand streams. The claws then shot towards Gaara, who dodged them. They started chasing Gaara around until Kurama sent more. The claws caught Gaara and burnt the sand off him. Kurama shot forward and pierced Gaara's throat before forming a small Biju Dama, destroying his body. Gaara yelled, Temari! Kurama started forming another Biju Dama as both Temari and Kankuro ran away. Kurama let the Biju Dama dissipate as his chakra disappeared. Naruto shook his head before heading back to Konoha. Was that the only way to stop him? Thought Naruto. Yes, said Kurama. Shikaku will reform in the desert some years from now, he said. Hopefully without the madness Suna inflicted on him, he said. After Sandaime Hokage's funeral, who sacrificed himself to seal Orochimaru away but only got his arms, all four of them were called to Hayashi's office. When Harry and Haku arrived, they saw that Hanabi was there as well. Now that you are all here, I first want to give you these, said Hayashi. He gave Naruto, Hinata, Harry, and Haku a scroll. They each took them and unsealed what was inside them, a Chunin flak jacket. Congratulations, said Hayashi smiling. How, asked Harry. We didn't fight, said Haku. While you didn't fight, you helped out a lot during the invasion, said Hayashi. You saved many lives, Hinata, while both Harry and Haku distracted and took out a lot of the enemy, he explained. While Naruto did the most, taking out the Suna Jinchuriki, he finished. I didn't do that, thought Naruto. But you still deserve the promotion, said Kurama. All four of them put their new flak jackets on. Why am I here, father, asked Hanabi. I would like for you to go with your sister when she leaves, said Hayashi. Are you okay, asked Hinata worriedly. I'm fine, said Hayashi. Due to our forces being low from the invasion, they are recalling all able-bodied shinobi back into service, he explained. I don't want to leave Hanabi by herself with the elders, he said. I would love to have her come with us, said Hinata, hugging Hanabi. Before you go, Hanabi, take this, said Hayashi. Hanabi gasped when she saw the Hittite. Really, asked Hanabi? Yes, said Hayashi, nodding his head. I believe you have been ready for a while now, he said. Hanabi took the Hittite and wrapped it around her neck. Let's go seal up everything, Hanabi, said Hinata. Okay, said Hanabi. Let's meet up at our hotel room, said Harry. Okay, said Naruto. They all left Hayashi's office to get ready to leave. Harry and Haku went back to their hotel room and sealed everything up. They then waited for Naruto, Hinata, and Hanabi to show up. Once they showed up, Harry asked, ready to go? Yes, said Naruto, nodding his head. Harry called for Fox, and he appeared before they all disappeared in a burst of fire. There was a burst of fire in Professor Dumbledore's office as all five of them appeared. Welcome back, said Dumbledore, seeing them. Who is this, he asked, seeing Hanabi. This is my little sister Hanabi, said Hinata. She will be staying with us from now on, she added. Welcome, said Dumbledore. It is a pleasure to meet you, sir, said Hanabi, bowing. How old are you, asked Dumbledore. I'm 11, said Hanabi. Excellent, said Dumbledore. You can attend Hogwarts then, he said. Here is your letter, he said, handing her the letter. Thank you for this honor, said Hanabi, taking it. Here are your letters as well, said Dumbledore, handing their letter to each of them. Thank you, they all said, taking them. Third years and above are allowed to visit the nearby village of Hogsmeade on certain weekends, explained Dumbledore. Usually, all third years would need to get their parent or guardian to sign a permission slip to go, but I told the other professors that you four will not need them, he continued. Thank you, all four of them said. What if Naruto was in the Harry Potter world, and here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.